Chapter 217. Shuetshun, your grandfather, Murong is here. Hurry up and come out to die. It had been more than a month since Murong made a scene in Fallen Star City. Not only did he destroy the shop of the Limitless Sword sect under the nose of Shuetshun, the third master of the Dragon Phoenix list, but he also escaped unscathed. On this day, an extremely arrogant shout came from outside Fallen Star City. Murong was here again, and he even said that he wanted to challenge Shuetshun. When they heard Murong's angry roar, all the cultivators in Fallen Star City had strange expressions on their faces. Murong, who was only in the out-of-body stage, actually threatened to challenge Shuetshun. One must know that more than a month ago, Murong was no match for Shuetshun at all and finally escaped. Could it be that in the past half a month, Murong had improved to a terrifying stage where he could fight Shuetshun? If that was the case, then it was really terrifying. However, was it possible? There was a difference of 4 stages between the out-of-body stage and the transformation stage. Moreover, Shuetshun was not an ordinary transformation stage. Even if Murong broke through to the transformation stage in more than a month, he was still no match for Shuetshun. Besides, who was so terrifying to break through from the out-of-body stage to the transformation stage in more than a month? Perhaps he had found a backer. Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant? If he did not have someone to rely on, would he dare to challenge Shuetshun alone? In an instant, many thoughts flashed through the minds of countless cultivators. However, no matter what they thought, they immediately rose into the air and flew out of the city. I've been looking for you in every possible way, but you actually jumped out to court death. Today I'll kill you. Just as Murong's voice spread throughout Fallen Star City, Shuetshun's incomparably cold voice, which contained a terrifying killing intent, also spread far and wide. At the same time, Shuetshun also rose into the air from the rebuilt shop of the Limitless Sword sect and flew out of the city. Murong is back. Did he find a way to deal with Shuetshun? On one side of the Fallen Star City, Hutong, who was ranked 4th on the 100-flower ranking, smiled slightly. She was like 100 flowers blooming, but with a hint of foxy charm. If someone were to pick up Hutong's smile at this moment, they would definitely be deeply immersed in it and unable to extricate themselves. Unfortunately, other than Hutong, there was only Hui left. Young Master Murong actually came back. Do you want to go out and take a look? Hui looked at Hutong and asked with a smile. Of course, I want to see what this Murong is capable of. However, this fellow has always been crafty. If he is not fully confident, he will not take the initiative to find trouble with Shuetshun, Hutong said with a smile. Elder Sister Qingqin, Murong has returned. Weren't you very interested in him? Don't you want to go out and take a look? Within the all-pleasure sex property in the Falling Star City, a young woman smiled and said to Qingqin. Qingqin was the holy maiden of the all-pleasure sect, a stunning beauty ranked 5th on the 100-flower list. Qingqin's eyes flashed with splendor. She didn't say anything and directly soared into the sky, flying out of the city. Ah, don't be so fast, Sister Qingqin. Wait for me. The woman who spoke earlier pouted and immediately soared into the sky, following Qingqin out. At the same time, above the sky of Fallen Star City, a woman in white with her face covered also flew towards the direction of Murong's voice outside the city. At this moment, a considerable number of cultivators in Fallen Star City left one after another. After all, Murong had returned this time and challenged Shuetshun by himself. Perhaps he really did have some tricks up his sleeve. They couldn't miss this fight. Moreover, Murong had a legendary spatial magic treasure that could carry living people. 1,000 miles away from Fallen Star City, Murong hovered in the sky and coldly looked in the direction of Fallen Star City. At this moment, some faster cultivators had already teleported near Murong. Each and every one of them looked at Murong with greedy eyes. This guy was a walking treasure trove. If they could kill him, they'd become rich overnight. However, these people only dared to look at Murong from afar. No one dared to make a move. Although Murong couldn't defeat Shuetshun, it was more than enough to deal with these people. These guys were even faster than Shuetshun. Like a tide, cultivators rushed over crazily. In an instant, the area around Murong Yu was filled to the brim, both on the ground and in the sky. Looking at these people who liked to join in the fun, Murong Yu sneered in his heart. Come on, come on. The more you come, the stronger you are, the better. The more cultivators there were, the stronger they were. When Murong Yu released the heavenly tribulation later, the power of the heavenly tribulation would be greater. If there were as many people as at the exit of the extreme divine realm, the heavenly tribulation caused by so many people would be blasted into pieces, not to mention a mere Shuechun. After all, the cultivators who had appeared here were much stronger than those who had appeared at the entrance of the extreme heaven realm. Moreover, the tribulation thunder of Murong Yu in the spirit-severing stage was at least dozens of times more terrifying than the tribulation thunder of the out-of-body stage. The more people there were, the stronger they were, the more terrifying the heavenly tribulation would be. Swish! A white light cut through the void from the direction of Fallen Star's city and flew over. Soon, it stopped in front of Murong Yu and gradually revealed a figure. It was Shuechun. The moment Shuechun appeared, the surrounding temperature of heaven and earth became cold, as if it had suddenly changed from a hot summer to a cold winter. This was the murderous intent emitted by Shuechun. Shuechun looked at Murong Yu with murderous intent in his eyes. Murong Yu, you actually came back to die. Very good, very early. Shuechun looked at Murong Yu with murderous intent, but he was a little shocked in his heart. After not seeing him for a month, Murong Yu's strength had broken through a big realm. From the original peak of the out-of-body stage to the current peak of the spirit-severing stage. His cultivation speed was so fast that even he blushed with shame. This is definitely a genius. If he is given a few more years, he might have surpassed me. However, this is impossible. I must strangle him in the cradle. Otherwise, will there still be a place for me in a few years? Shuechun thought with murderous intent in his heart. Although he had reached the transformation stage at a young age and was ranked 3rd on the Dragon Phoenix list. However, he was definitely not young. In the cultivation world, those who had cultivated for less than 10,000 years were considered the younger generation. Although Shuechun's talent was extremely good, his cultivation time was definitely not short. At the very least, it was hundreds of years. However, how many years had Murong Yu cultivated? It had been less than 10 years since he started cultivating martial arts. At most, it would be 6 or 7 years. From a mortal who didn't know martial arts to the spirit-severing stage in 6 or 7 years. In the cultivation world, how many people had there been since ancient times? Although Murong Yu wasn't the most outstanding, he was definitely the most talented existence. Therefore, although Murong Yu was only at the spirit-severing stage, Shuechun didn't want to see him continue to grow. No matter what, he had to strangle him. Apart from Shuechun, many people could see that Murong Yu had made another breakthrough in his realm. Such a terrifying cultivation speed made many people reveal a fierce light in their eyes. These people had the same thoughts as Shuechun. They absolutely couldn't let Murong Yu continue to grow. I haven't seen you for a month, and you actually broke through a big realm. Such speed can be called monstrous. However, your life will come to an end. Next year, today, will be the anniversary of your death. Although Shuechun's killing intent was fierce, he didn't immediately make a move. He just looked at Murong Yu and sneered. At the same time, Shuechun's divine sense still spread out, covering a radius of 100 miles. As long as it was in the place covered by his divine sense, he could teleport to every corner. This was because he had taken measures to prevent Murong Yu from escaping into Hichu Luo Shu. After all, although he was powerful, he couldn't seal the space. If the space was sealed, Murong Yu wouldn't be able to enter Hichu Luo Shu. If you want to fight, then fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Murong Yu suddenly shouted. He took the phoenix spear and stabbed at Shuechun fiercely. A huge black spear light, like a mountain range, instantly tore out. It contained a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. At this time, It tore the void apart like a black dragon roaring at Shuechen. You're overestimating yourself. Shuechen sneered and casually slapped out with his palm. Bang! Even though Shuechen lightly slapped out this palm, it contained extremely terrifying power. Murong Yu's spear light, which could destroy heaven and earth, couldn't withstand a single blow and was directly shattered. Die! Almost as soon as Shuechen smashed Murong Yu's spear light with his palm, a figure appeared behind Murong Yu out of thin air. A master at the crossing calamity stage directly teleported behind Murong Yu. When the transcending tribulation cultivator appeared behind Murong Yu, he grinned maliciously and gathered all his strength into his fist before ruthlessly punching Murong Yu. You're courting death. Murong Yu shouted in a low voice and slapped down with his palm. Puff! The big fan-like hand fell from the sky and slapped the crossing calamity stage cultivator, who launched a sneak attack. A cloud of blood mist burst out and splashed across the sky. That crossing calamity stage cultivator was killed by Murong Yu with one slap. Just as Murong Yu killed the crossing calamity stage cultivator with one slap, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. It's too abnormal. A severed soul stage cultivator killed a crossing calamity stage cultivator with one slap. Is this true? Who can tell me if this is true? Seeing this scene, everyone was deeply shocked. Even Shuechen, who was opposite Murong Yu, and Hu Tong, who was in the crowd, were shocked. Damn it, just how frightening is Murong Yu's strength? One of the cultivators said in shock as he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If Shuechen killed a crossing calamity stage cultivator with one slap, they would never be shocked. Because Shuechen himself was a master at the transformation stage, and his strength was very powerful. However, the severed soul stage cultivator actually killed a crossing calamity stage cultivator with one slap. This was really shocking. Murong Yu is too abnormal. Seeing Murong Yu kill a crossing calamity stage cultivator with one slap, everyone present was shocked. Chapter 218. I absolutely can't let this kid continue to grow. Such a terrifying cultivation and cultivation speed is almost unprecedented. He must die today. In the distance, Shuechen's face was very ugly, but the killing intent in his heart became more and more fierce. Many people had the same thoughts as Shuechen. They all looked at Murong Yu with murderous eyes. They couldn't wait to kill Murong Yu with a slap. I haven't seen him for more than a month, and he has grown to this extent. In the distance, Hu Tong's eyes showed a look of shock. More than a month ago, although Murong Yu could also kill a cultivator in the crossing calamity stage, he relied on various treasures, such as the tribulation thunder. But now, it was just a matter of a slap. The gap was more than 100 times. Your strength is not bad, but it's over. Although Shuechen was shocked, he didn't think that Murong Yu was his opponent, at least not now. With a sneer, Shuechen stretched out his white, jade-like hand, crossing the void, and slapped Murong Yu fiercely. A terrifying power erupted, and even the void was broken by this white, jade-like hand. At this time, Murong Yu's face showed a trace of a strange look. He could no longer suppress the power of the tribulation. Murong Yu laughed, and then said loudly, "Shuechen, you can't kill me. Today, we don't know who will kill who." While speaking, Murong Yu had already used the soldier formula. His whole body turned into a stream of light, and he rushed towards Shuechen. What's going on? Although Murong Yu can kill a cultivator in the crossing calamity stage with a slap, he can't be naive enough to think that he can kill Shuechen with a slap, right? Seeing that Murong Yu didn't resist Shuechen's attack, but instead rushed forward, everyone was shocked and uncertain. Endless tribulation thunder. Destroy the world. Boom, boom, boom. Halfway, Murong Yu suddenly roared. Following his roar, huge tribulation clouds appeared in the void, covering the sky and the sun. In just an instant, the sky was enveloped by endless tribulation clouds. They blotted out the sun and dimmed the sun. Night and day were replaced. An incomparably terrifying pressure that could shake one's soul emanated from the tribulation clouds, intimidating the myriad of worlds. Haha, Morong Yu, your tribulation lightning is useless against me. Shuechen laughed loudly. More than a month ago, Morong Yu had used tribulation lightning, but he couldn't do anything to Shuechen at that time. With Shuechen's strength, he was not afraid of the tribulation lightning that Morong Yu had unleashed at that time. Therefore, when he saw Morong Yu summon the tribulation thunder again, Shuechen laughed disdainfully. However, although Shuechen looked disdainful on the surface, he was already vigilant in his heart. Although he believed that Morong Yu wasn't his opponent, he wouldn't be a love rival. Moreover, the tribulation clouds gave him a sense of danger. Shuechen wasn't afraid of Morong Yu's tribulation lightning. However, after seeing the tribulation lightning, the crowd of cultivators who were watching instantly changed their expressions and began to fly away. Heavenly lightning was the nemesis of all cultivators. It was a terrifying power that specialized in killing cultivators. Ordinary cultivators didn't dare to get close to the tribulation lightning at all. However, there were still some experts who weren't afraid of the tribulation lightning summoned by Morong Yu. They didn't leave and just stood in place. However, when they looked at the tribulation clouds above their heads, they vaguely realized that the tribulation lightning was a little different from the tribulation lightning summoned by Morong Yu more than a month ago. In fact, they even felt a sense of danger in their hearts. However, they couldn't tell what was different about it. Nonsense, of course it's different. This tribulation lightning isn't the reduced version that I summoned. It's the real tribulation lightning. Seeing everyone's expression, Morong Yu sneered in his heart. Boom! Endless tribulation clouds covered the entire sky, blotting out the sun and sky. It emitted an extremely strong pressure that was extremely terrifying. Suddenly, after an explosion, tribulation lightning spewed out from the tribulation clouds and covered the sky, ruthlessly striking down on everyone present. The first tribulation lightning finally struck down. At this moment, all the cultivators present felt their hearts sink. This was because they realized that they had been locked onto by the terrifying tribulation lightning. When the tribulation lightning struck down from the sky, no one could escape and could only be forced to accept the baptism of the tribulation lightning. Even Morong Yu couldn't avoid it and could only let the tribulation lightning strike him. As for the big hand that Shuechen had previously struck out, it was turned into dust by the tribulation lightning that filled the sky. The first tribulation lightning wasn't terrifying, but there were still many cultivators who were directly blasted into dust by the tribulation lightning. A series of screams spread far away. It was very mournful and terrifying. This tribulation lightning seems to be different from before. Shuechen and the other experts easily blocked the first wave of tribulation lightning. However, they felt that something was wrong. Boom! The second tribulation lightning struck down again. The tribulation lightning that filled the sky rumbled down, and the dazzling lightning illuminated the world. The light was even more dazzling than the sun. At the same time, an aura that was dozens of times more powerful than the first tribulation lightning emanated, shocking the heavens. No, this is a tribulation, a real tribulation, not the tribulation lightning that Morong Yu summoned. When he saw the second heavenly lightning strike, one of the experts finally reacted and exclaimed. Although the tribulation lightning that Morong Yu summoned was very terrifying, it wouldn't strike down one after another. And now, one after another, it was clearly the heavenly tribulation. A real tribulation lightning. A real tribulation lightning. Many cultivators revealed a horrified look in their eyes. Unlike the tribulation lightning that Morong Yu summoned, the real tribulation lightning would constantly increase in power according to the number of people present. Although a considerable portion of the people present had already left, there were still quite a few of them. There were at least a few thousand of them. The tribulation lightning that was summoned by so many people. In the end, the tribulation lightning would be so terrifying that it could destroy the world. Rumble, the tribulation lightning that filled the sky, rumbled down, and the extremely terrifying tribulation lightning even shattered the void. The ground below was directly struck by a huge pit that was a few miles deep. Under the bombardment of this terrifying tribulation lightning, countless cultivators screamed in agony, and a third of them were directly killed. However, although the second tribulation lightning was terrifying, it still couldn't injure the experts, such as Xuechun. As for Morongyu, at this moment, he was more like a spring breeze, and the tribulation lightning didn't pose a threat to him at all. Morongyu, you're the one who's going through the tribulation. Xuechun's face was gloomy as he looked at Morongyu with a murderous look. His body swayed, and he disappeared on the spot with a teleport. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Morongyu. As long as he killed Morongyu, the heavenly tribulation would naturally dissipate. Haha, it's useless. This is the real heavenly tribulation. Even if I'm killed, as long as the people here aren't dead, the tribulation lightning won't dissipate. Morongyu laughed out loud. He used the army formula under his feet and retreated hundreds of miles. Even so, I'll kill you first. Xuechun was very unhappy. He had been tricked by Morongyu again. This time, even though he had safely survived the tribulation, he had lost face. As the third powerhouse on the Dragon Phoenix list, he had been played by a small fry. How could he endure this? Rumble. At this moment, the third tribulation lightning struck down with an extremely terrifying power. Xuechun's expression changed slightly, and he had to stop chasing Morongyu. This was because the third tribulation lightning had already made him feel a trace of threat. After the third tribulation lightning, there were not many people left, but the tribulation clouds in the sky became denser, and the pressure was even more terrifying. Rumble. The fourth tribulation lightning struck down. Morongyu stood in the void, allowing the tribulation lightning to strike his body. He even opened his mouth and swallowed countless tribulation lightning like a whale swallowing water. He directly used the tribulation lightning to temper his body and strength. On the other side, Xuechun and the others had solemn expressions. They began to increase their strength to resist the tribulation lightning that was striking down from the void. Fifth tribulation, sixth tribulation, seventh tribulation. When the seventh tribulation lightning struck down, even Morongyu's body could not take it anymore. At this moment, Morongyu's body was like a charcoal head. His hair was standing up, and he looked extremely ferocious. He's not dead yet. At this moment, Xuechun, who was some distance away from Morongyu, was still standing in the same place as if nothing had happened. It was as if the tribulation lightning could not hurt him at all. At this moment, only Morongyu and Xuechun were left in the void. As for Hutong and the others, they had long disappeared. These guys had slipped away early and were now watching Morongyu and Xuechun in the distance. Morongyu looked at Xuechun in shock, and his heart was filled with shock. However, Xuechun knew his own difficulties. At this moment, he had already increased his strength to the limit and even sacrificed many treasures to safely pass through the seventh tribulation. However, there were still two more tribulations, especially the ninth tribulation. It was a tribulation lightning that was more terrifying than the previous 8 tribulations combined. Even Xuechun was not confident that he could successfully withstand it. Although Morongyu was struck like a piece of coal, Xuechun did not feel that Morongyu's strength had weakened. He was even stronger than before the tribulation. Although he was in a sorry state, the tribulation lightning could not hurt him at all. Instead, it allowed him to use the tribulation lightning to temper his body. That was the difference. Kill Morongyu first. The grievance in Xuechun's heart was simply indescribable. The murderous intent in his heart soared to the sky, as if it was going to rush into the sky. With a flash of his body, Xuechun was about to teleport to kill Morongyu. However, at this moment, a loud bang suddenly came from the void, and an aura of death descended from the sky. The 8th tribulation lightning finally descended. Chapter 219. The 8th tribulation lightning was terrifying. It was at least dozens of times more powerful than the seventh tribulation lightning. After a deafening explosion, the entire void seemed to be torn apart. A large amount of tribulation lightning containing terrifying power and dazzling light blasted down, wanting to destroy everything between heaven and earth. Seeing this scene, Murong-Yu's expression changed slightly. Xue-Chun, who was chasing after Murong-Yu, had a drastic change in expression. There was even a hint of fear in his eyes. Far away from the heavenly tribulation, Hu Tong and the others turned pale with fright when they saw the eighth tribulation lightning. The tribulation lightning was too terrifying. Even though they were quite a distance away from the tribulation lightning, they were still shocked to the point that their souls were trembling. Their entire bodies were constantly retreating. Even in the distant meteor city, countless cultivators felt uneasy because of the terrifying tribulation lightning. Boom! The tribulation lightning blasted down fiercely toward Murong-Yu and Xue-Chun. Murong-Yu's eyes narrowed slightly as the primal chaos celestial record began to circulate at an even faster speed. Every second, it would complete a few hundred cycles. However, that was all. Murong-Yu did not take out any treasures at all. He was still prepared to use his physical body to resist the tribulation lightning. Seeing this scene, the people far away from the tribulation lightning could not help but be shocked. Xue-Chun, who was enveloped by the tribulation lightning, sneered. Although Murong-Yu's physical body was strong, he did not think that Murong-Yu could resist this round of tribulation lightning with just his physical body. Facing the eighth tribulation lightning, even he felt a sense of trepidation. If he was careless, even though he was the third powerhouse on the Dragon Phoenix list, he would be struck to ashes by the tribulation lightning. Bang! At this moment, a terrifying aura burst out from Xue-Chun's body like a vast ocean. Although the terrifying pressure was not as strong as the tribulation lightning, it was earth-shattering. At the eighth tribulation lightning, Xue-Chun finally displayed his maximum strength. However, if he wanted to block the eighth tribulation, it was still not enough. Xue-Chun naturally understood this. After a bang sound, a 9-story pagoda appeared above Murong-Yu's head out of thin air. The 9-story pagoda glowed with a faint golden light. A powerful aura radiated from the pagoda, shattering the space around the pagoda. Immortal item. This was definitely an immortal artifact, a defensive immortal artifact. In fact, it was a much higher grade compared to the ordinary immortal artifacts that appeared in the immortal plane. This was Xue-Chun's trump card. The 9-story building was the size of a small house, floating above Xue-Chun's head. A faint golden light shone down, firmly protecting Xue-Chun within. After summoning the 9-story pagoda, Xue-Chun's face regained its calmness. The 9-story pagoda was a defensive immortal artifact with unparalleled power that he had obtained by chance. Even a first-step immortal would find it hard to break through the defense of the pagoda. Even the 8th stage of the heavenly tribulation was unable to shatter the 9-storied pagoda. Therefore, he stood in the middle of the tribulation lightning with incomparable confidence and smiled at the common people. Rumble. The moment Xue-Chun summoned the 9-storied pagoda, the 8th stage of the heavenly tribulation lightning had already struck down. The heavenly tribulation lightning that filled the sky struck down. The incomparably terrifying power and impact swiftly bombarded the 9-story pagoda, wanting to tear it apart. The 9-story pagoda suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light, and a pressure comparable to the heavenly tribulation erupted. Rays of light splashed out like billions of rays of light, tearing apart all the heavenly tribulation lightning that bombarded over. No heavenly tribulation lightning could get close to the 9-story pagoda, let alone bombard the pagoda and Xue-Chun who was inside it. Seeing this scene, Murong-Yu and the experts who were watching from afar were deeply shocked, especially Murong-Yu. As one of the parties involved, he knew how terrifying the heavenly tribulation lightning was. Damn it! As expected of the third expert on the Dragon Phoenix list, the holy son of the Limitless Sword sect, just by relying on this pagoda, he's almost invincible in the cultivation world. Murong Yu's eyes flickered as he looked at the pagoda above Shui Chen's head. He had an urge to snatch it away. This guy was too greedy. Which of the treasures in his hands was inferior to this 9-story pagoda? The Hichu Luoshu, the Yinyang Cauldron, the Yinyang Bao, and so on. Each of these treasures had surpassed the category of immortal artifacts. Murong Yu's physical body was extremely terrifying. It had already reached the peak of a grade 7 spirit artifact. After devouring the power of the first 7 heavenly tribulation lightning, under the bombardment of the 8th heavenly tribulation lightning, his physical body finally broke through and reached the grade 8 spirit artifact level in one fell swoop. A grade 8 spirit artifact level physical body. The moment Murong Yu's physical body broke through, a fierce aura emanated from his body. At this moment, his physical body was hundreds of times stronger than before. Every inch of his muscles was filled with explosive power. His meridians had also expanded hundreds of times with the breakthrough of his physical body. At this moment, Murong Yu felt that he was unprecedentedly powerful. He even had a feeling that he could even kill an ordinary expert in the transformation stage with a single punch. However, he was still a bit weak against a top expert in the transformation stage like Shui Chen. As for those one-step immortals, they were still nothing. However, Murong Yu was also very excited because he was only in the spirit severing stage now. Spirit severing stage, combination stage, crossing tribulation stage, and even the transformation stage. Now, he could kill ordinary cultivators in the transformation stage. What would happen once he cultivated to the transformation stage? Would he be invincible in the world? Murong Yu's thoughts flashed through his mind, but he didn't relax his vigilance. The heavenly tribulation lightning couldn't break the defense of the 9-story pagoda and couldn't hurt Shui Chen at all. However, Shui Chen didn't attack Murong Yu and take the opportunity to kill him, because he thought that Murong Yu couldn't withstand this round of heavenly tribulation lightning. However, what made Shui Chen and countless experts drop their jaws was that not only did Murong Yu successfully resist the heavenly tribulation lightning, but he even seemed to have broken through. An aura that was 100 times stronger than before radiated from Murong Yu's body. Black lightning energy lingered on the surface of his body. From afar, he looked like the reincarnation of a thunder god. His body, which was like charcoal, and his black hair, which was standing on end, had returned to its original state. He actually broke through. Seeing Murong Yu in front of him, Shui Chen didn't know what to feel. The current Murong Yu was at least hundreds of times more powerful than a month ago. If he continued to grow, even he would be trash in front of Murong Yu. At the thought of this, Shui Chen's face became gloomy, and his eyes revealed a terrible, killing intent. Haha, refreshing. Murong Yu laughed out loud. Suddenly, he saw Shui Chen in front of him and chuckled. Then, he threw a punch at Shui Chen. You're courting death. Shui Chen's killing intent surged. With a shake of his body, he had already rushed toward Murong Yu. At the same time, he took out the 9-story pagoda above his head and suppressed Murong Yu fiercely. The 9-story pagoda burst out a terrible pressure, smashed the void, and suppressed Murong Yu. It wanted to crush Murong Yu into powder. Good timing. Murong Yu's physical body had broken through to the rank of a grade 8 spiritual artifact. He wanted to test the strength of his physical body, so he immediately let out a hearty laugh and soared into the sky to meet the pagoda that was suppressing him. During this process, Murong Yu punched out fiercely. Boom! After an earth-shattering sound, Murong Yu's hands seemed to have hit a huge piece of divine iron, and his hands were numb from the shock. A strong force surged and sent Murong Yu flying. Whoosh! The 9-story pagoda emitted a faint golden light like a divine mountain. It suppressed Murong Yu and wanted to kill Murong Yu. Murong Yu shook his numb hands and tried to suppress the surging blood and qi in his body. His heart was filled with shock. If his body hadn't just broken through to the level of a grade 8 spiritual weapon, his body would have been shattered by the impact just now. Murong Yu was shocked, but he didn't know that Shui Chen was even more shocked. Not long ago, he used the 9-story pagoda to smash a monstrous beast with terrifying battle strength who had reached the transformation stage. However, Muronyu was only sent flying and wasn't injured. Wasn't Murongyu's strength more terrifying than that monstrous beast in the transformation stage? The more shocked Xuechun was, the more intense his killing intent was. Just as he controlled the 9-story pagoda to kill Murongyu directly, the 9th Tribulation Thunder finally finished condensing and struck down. Xuechun called back the 9-story pagoda with a gloomy face. If he hadn't been on guard against the last and most terrifying tribulation, Murongyu would have been killed if he had used the 9-story pagoda with all his strength. The power of the 9th wave of tribulation lightning was countless times more terrifying than the previous 8 waves of tribulation lightning combined. When the 9th tribulation thunder struck down, even Murongyu, whose body had reached the level of a grade 8 spiritual weapon, felt a strong sense of danger. On the other side, Xuechun's face was also a little more dignified. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, a dazzling white light shrouded the world. Endless tribulation lightning poured down from the heavens, intending to blast everything below into smithereens. Murongyu's face was dignified. He secretly used the Hichu Luo Shu. It was unavoidable. At this moment, the endless tribulation thunder immediately drowned Murongyu. Murongyu's screams spread far and wide. It seemed that he had encountered a mishap. Puff! At the moment when the endless tribulation thunder struck down, Xuechun used all his strength to activate the 9-story pagoda. However, the 9-story pagoda, which had shone brightly in the 8th tribulation thunder, was vulnerable in front of the 9th tribulation thunder. With a bang, the endless tribulation thunder instantly tore the light from the 9-story pagoda, and then directly bombarded the 9-story pagoda. Crack! Although the 9-story pagoda was a high-grade celestial artifact, it could not withstand a single blow from the 9th tribulation thunder. The moment it was bombarded by the tribulation thunder, a series of shocking cracks appeared on it. Crack! The 9th tribulation thunder was really terrifying. As soon as it bombarded the 9-story pagoda, the terrifying 9-story pagoda couldn't bear it and cracked open a huge crack. Crack! Crack! The tribulation thunder shrouded the world and rapidly struck down. Chapter 220. The 9-story pagoda could not withstand the bombardment of the tribulation lightning. Ever since the first crack appeared, the 9-story pagoda began to crack rapidly, spreading in all directions like a spider web. Xuechun's heart was bleeding. The pagoda was one of his most powerful magic treasures. Now, cracks had appeared on the surface of it. If the tribulation lightning continued to bombard it, the 9-story pagoda would be blasted into dust in a few breaths' time. Pain! Xuechun's heart was bleeding. However, it was not the time to feel pain. His life was the most important thing now. He could not care less about the pain. With a thought, a yellow light rushed out of his body and expanded with the wind. In the next moment, it turned into a huge umbrella that covered the sky. It was a celestial weapon, the Heavenly Luo umbrella. As soon as the Heavenly Luo umbrella appeared, it exploded with a terrifying yellow light. It tore the sky and split the earth, trying to crush the tribulation lightning. However, although the Heavenly Luo umbrella was powerful, it could not withstand a single blow from the tribulation lightning. With a crack, the Heavenly Luo umbrella was shattered. Xuechun felt pain in his heart. Then a ray of light came out of his body again and attacked the top of his head. Boom! 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 Various celestial weapons were summoned by Xuechun. Jade palaces, battle sabers, halberds. In just a few breaths' time, Xuechun had summoned dozens of celestial weapons. However, these terrifying celestial weapons were still vulnerable in the face of the 9th tribulation lightning. Every celestial weapon he summoned was blasted into ashes. However, these celestial weapons were constantly being blasted into pieces. At least, they blocked countless tribulation lightning and saved Xuechun from being killed by the tribulation lightning. However, Shuechen's heart was about to break. Although he was fine, these were almost all of his collection. He had never used some of the celestial weapons, but now they were all blasted into pieces by the tribulation lightning. Murong-yu, I will kill you in this life. Shuechen gritted his teeth and looked at Murong-yu, who was enveloped by the tribulation lightning. If Murong-yu was lucky enough to survive this time, no matter where he fled to, he would pursue him endlessly until he killed him. If Murong-yu hadn't tricked him again, he wouldn't have. Seeing Shuechen tossing out immortal artifacts one after another, as though they were free, the spectators from afar could not help but feel pain for Shuechen. But at the same time, they were shocked by the number of immortal artifacts Shuechen possessed. Murong-yu was known as a moving treasure trove, but it seemed that Shuechen was the moving treasure trove, casually throwing out immortal artifacts. So far, he had already destroyed 50 to 60 immortal artifacts. Moreover, he was constantly taking out immortal artifacts. At this moment, Shuechen's heart was filled with anger and fear. Although he had many immortal artifacts, they were limited. However, the tribulation lightning seemed to be endless. If this continued, he would be blasted into smithereens by the tribulation lightning as soon as his immortal equipment was exhausted. This is the last immortal artifact. If the tribulation lightning still hasn't subsided, then I can only use it. Shuechen took out the last immortal artifact, but his heart was getting angrier and angrier. His killing intent towards Murong-yu was also getting sharper. He kept throwing out countless immortal artifacts to block the endless tribulation lightning. On the other side, Murong-yu did not do anything. At this moment, Murong-yu's surroundings had been enveloped by countless tribulation lightning. Shuechen could not see Murong-yu's figure at all, let alone know what he was doing inside. "Brat, you better not die," Shuechen thought with murderous intent in his heart. He did not want Murong-yu to be struck to death by the tribulation lightning. He wanted to kill Murong-yu. As long as he killed Murong-yu with his own hands, he could vent his anger towards him. Bang! All the immortal artifacts that Shuechen had taken out were shattered. Shuechen was shocked. Just as he was about to use his real trump card, the tribulation lightning that filled the sky had already enveloped him rapidly and directly drowned him. F***CK. Shuechen could not help but shout. At the same time, an aura that was dozens or even hundreds of times more terrifying than when he was at his peak suddenly erupted from his body. Bang! A terrifying power erupted and instantly swept through the world. With Shuechen's body as the center, the terrifying power swept in all directions. Chi-Chi, the terrifying tribulation lightning that had destroyed the immortal artifacts as if they were nothing, was annihilated in an instant like a piece of paper in front of the terrifying power that Shuechen exuded. The void shattered and the tribulation lightning was directly annihilated. Even the tribulation clouds and the void quickly disappeared under the effect of this terrifying power. It was unknown whether the tribulation clouds dissipated automatically or were shattered by the terrifying power that Shuechen exuded. This is the aura of an immortal. At this moment, in the distant meteor city, when the powerful cultivators felt this terrifying power, their faces revealed a look of surprise. The aura of an immortal. Could it be that an immortal had appeared here? Many cultivators in the transformation period were shocked. Immortals were terrifying existences that could only be seen but not reached. Although there were countless cultivators in the transformation period in the cultivation world, there were also first-step immortals and half-step immortals. However, immortals were still a legend. Now, there was an immortal's aura outside the city. Could it be that an immortal had appeared there? In an instant, those who felt this aura quickly left Meteor City and flew out of the city. The tribulation lightning dissipated and Murong-yu, who was originally covered by countless tribulation lightning, revealed his figure. At this moment, Murong-yu's body was once again like charcoal. His black hair stood up, and he looked extremely ferocious. Even his physical body, which had reached the level of an 8th-grade spiritual artifact, had shocking wounds that were so deep that his bones could be seen. Huff! Murong-yu exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Countless lightning bolts spurted out from his mouth and nose. They were the remaining waste gas after being swallowed and refined by him. I finally made it through. Murong-yu reached out and wiped a drop of cold sweat on his forehead. He felt lucky. If the tribulation lightning had lasted a little longer, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. At that time, he would have had to sacrifice countless treasures to resist the tribulation lightning, just like Xueqin. However, even so, Murong-yu was still seriously injured. If he hadn't transferred many of the tribulation lightning that bombarded him to the Hichu Luo Shu, he would have been dead by now. A terrifying aura that could shatter his soul pressed down on him from the front. Murong-yu was shocked. He turned his head and saw a monster whose body was like charcoal and whose hair stood up, slowly walking towards him. Who is this? Is it Xueqin? Seeing the other party's eye-catching appearance, Murong-yu almost laughed out loud. However, the terrifying aura emitted from the other party's body made Murong-yu's soul tremble and almost shatter. Even his physical body, which had reached the level of an 8th-grade spiritual artifact, began to crack inch by inch under this terrifying pressure. The pressure of this aura was even more terrifying than the 9th-grade tribulation lightning just now. The person with the eye-catching appearance was Xueqin. At this moment, he looked at Murong-yu with murderous intent. He took a step forward and the ground immediately collapsed. The aura emitted from his body was so oppressive that the void around him was constantly shattered. It was very terrifying. Under the pressure of this terrifying aura, Murong-yu's physical body began to crack rapidly. Even his soul began to shatter. At this moment, Murong-yu couldn't even think of resisting. His entire body was frozen by this terrifying aura. Murong-yu swallowed a mouthful of saliva with great difficulty as a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. Is this Xueqin's true strength? It's too terrifying. It's even more terrifying than the aura of a first-step immortal. Murong-yu thought in shock. This is the aura of an immortal. With your current strength, you won't be able to withstand a single blow. Hichu's anxious voice sounded in Murong-yu's ears. At this moment, the void had been suppressed by this terrifying aura. Even if Murong-yu wanted to go back to the Hichu Luo Shu, it was impossible. Even Hichu couldn't open the Hichu Luo Shu and take Murong-yu in at this moment. After all, Hichu hadn't recovered to the immortal realm yet. Under the pressure of an immortal, Murong-yu couldn't even take out all kinds of treasures. The aura of an immortal. Damn it, this bastard isn't immortal no matter how I look at it. Am I really going to die here today? Murong-yu's face revealed a bitter smile. Murong-yu, you're very good and very powerful. The speed of your growth has shocked me. It has scared me. But one good thing about me is that I'll kill anything that I'm afraid of with my own hands. As I said, you're going to die today. Xueqin slowly walked towards Murong-yu and slowly stretched out his big hand towards Murong-yu. At this moment, Xueqin had the power of an immortal. With a slap, the void was directly shattered. Not to mention that Murong-yu's body was only at the level of an 8th-grade spiritual weapon. Even a 9th-grade spiritual weapon would be destroyed by an immortal's finger. This was the difference between mortals and immortals. Today, no one can save you. Xueqin slowly slapped down with his big hand and sneered at the same time. He didn't immediately kill Murong-yu because he was sure that no one in the cultivation world could save Murong-yu from his hands. Moreover, Murong-yu had tricked him several times and made him lose face. Just now, he had burned all of his collection, which made him extremely angry. He wanted to kill Murong-yu slowly. He wanted to see Murong-yu slowly turn into powder under his hands to eliminate the hatred in his heart. Pooh! 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 Before the big hand slapped down, the power that escaped from it had already caused Murong-yu's powerful body to continuously crack open, shocking deep wounds to the bone. Murong-yu's bones were broken inch by inch under this terrifying pressure until they were shattered. Even his meridians were constantly crushed into powder. Chapter 221. His body, which was at the level of a grade 8 spiritual artifact, was completely vulnerable in front of Shuechun. His body, bones, and even meridians were all crushed under the terrifying pressure of power. There was no way to escape. Murong, you didn't even have the possibility of entering the Hichu Luoshu. This was because Shuechun's immortal-like power had already sealed the void. Murong, you even had a feeling that his thoughts were being suppressed to the point that he couldn't move. Am I really going to die here? Murong, you laughed self-deprecatingly in his heart. Shuechun's current strength was so strong that he couldn't even think of resisting. In the Hichu Luoshu world, Hichu's face was terrifyingly gloomy. Of course, he knew what was happening outside. He also wanted to open the Hichu Luoshu and take Murong back. However, his current strength was still not enough. Under the pressure of that terrifying power, he couldn't even open the Hichu Luoshu. Crack! Seeing that Shuechun's big hand was about to hit him, a crack suddenly appeared in the void above Murong-Yu's head. Then, a big hand reached out from the depths of the void and quickly grabbed Murong-Yu. You're courting death. Seeing that the big hand was about to take Murong-Yu from under his hand, Shuechun suddenly shouted. Then the big hand shook violently. Bang! Shuechun didn't directly attack the big hand that appeared out of thin air. He just shook the big hand. A powerful force suddenly erupted, shattering the sky and earth and shattering everything. Suddenly, before the big hand could reach Murong-Yu, Shuechun's head had already been shattered by the power that erupted from Shuechun. The moment the big hand was shattered, in the Hichu Luoshu, Hichu and many members of Chaos involuntarily spat out blood. Their faces were as pale as gold paper. In particular, Hichu's aura was even more chaotic. It was obvious that he had been seriously injured. The power of an immortal human is not something that can be countered by numbers alone. Hichu revealed a wry smile. Just now, he had joined forces with the 100,000 members of Chaos to open a crack in Hichu Luoshu and reached out his hand to retrieve Murong-Yu. However, it was easily shattered by Shuechun. Although there were 100,000 of them, the strongest among them had yet to reach the tribulation passing stage. No matter how many of them there were, they were no match for an immortal realm expert. If I was at my peak, I would be able to kill this kind of cultivator with just a glare. Hichu thought to himself, his killing intent soaring. However, he was getting more and more anxious. If he could not save Murong-Yu, then Murong-Yu would definitely die today. However, Hichu's strength hadn't recovered yet. He hadn't even reached the immortal level. No matter how strong Hichu Luoshu was, he couldn't unleash his full potential without great power. Burning the spirit vein, Hichu's face was filled with determination. He had a way to burn his strength, which could allow him to instantly become an immortal human. He was even many times stronger than Shuechun. However, once he used it, he might fall into a deep sleep again or even die. I must save Murong-Yu. No matter what, I must save him. Hichu was determined. With a flash, he disappeared from the spot. He prepared to burn the power of the spirit vein to increase his strength. However, just as he was about to refine the spirit vein, he stopped. Murong-Yu, the speed of your growth is frightening me. Therefore, you must die today. You must die, do you understand? I'll let you understand the difference between us now. In front of me, you're even less than an ant. Shuechun sneered and slammed his hand down, intending to completely shatter Murong-Yu. At this moment, Murong-Yu's body was bleeding profusely. The surface of his body was completely tattered. All the bones in his body had been shattered into powder by the pressure. His meridians had long been shattered. Apart from his dantian and brain, which were still relatively intact, he was no longer a human. Even if Shuechun did not kill him now, Murong-Yu would become a cripple without bones and meridians. Murong-Yu sighed in his heart. However, he looked coldly at Shuechun. If I don't die today, I will return today's humiliation 100-fold. You and the Limitless Sword Sect will all be buried because of you today. I will definitely flatten the Limitless Sword Sect. Murong-Yu could no longer open his mouth to speak. These words were transmitted by his spiritual will. You won't have that chance. Shuechun sneered. His hand slammed down, intending to smash Murong-Yu into powder. Boom! Just as Shuechen's hand was about to make contact with Murong Yu's head and turn him into dust, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Murong Yu's body. A powerful and life force burst out like a tide. It was extremely terrifying. Shuechen was the first to bear the brunt. At this moment, Shuechen only felt that the top of Murong Yu's head was enveloped by a layer of powerful force. His big hand was actually fixed in the void, unable to move an inch. Bang! At the same time, a powerful force rushed into Shuechen's body. As if a mountain fell from the sky, Shuechen's expression changed. Then, his whole body was sent flying by the powerful force. Puff! Shuechen spat out a mouthful of blood. In front of that terrifying force, even if he had the strength of an immortal, he was still severely injured. At the same time, the immortal-like aura on Shuechen's body receded like a tide. Soon, it disappeared without a trace. Shuechen quickly returned to his original appearance. He no longer had the powerful strength of an immortal. Shuechen's face was filled with shock. He had his own matters to attend to. That power just now was indeed the power of an immortal. Even if he met a half-step immortal, he could still kill him with a slap. However, the power that erupted from Murong Yu's body shattered his power and seriously injured him. That was a power that was several times more terrifying than his immortal power. What kind of power was that? Shuechen stood up from the ground in a sorry state and looked in the direction of Murong Yu. However, Murong Yu had already disappeared. He escaped again. Shuechen's face was extremely gloomy. Even if he used his biggest trump card, he still couldn't kill Murong Yu. This made him very unhappy. Cough, cough. Shuechen coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and looked around. At this time, many experts had been attracted by the immortal aura that he had just released. His figure flashed, and he soared into the sky and flew towards the direction of Fallen Star City. He knew that the power of an immortal couldn't be used as he wished. Every time he used it, it would cause him great damage. Moreover, he was now seriously injured by Murong Yu. Many of his bones were broken. If he still dared to stay here, he might be killed by others. In this cruel cultivation world, there was almost no reason to kill you. The aura of an immortal. He actually has the power of an immortal. Shuechen couldn't kill Murong Yu. What was the power that Murong Yu released at the end? Was it his power or a magic treasure in his body? Or was it a powerhouse? Many people who had witnessed all of this and saw Murong Yu turn the tables at the last moment to defeat Shuechen and escape calmly could not help but have this thought in their minds. However, not only did they not know, but even Murong Yu, as the person involved, had no idea at all. At this time, Murong Yu had already appeared in the level 9 spirit vein in the extreme heaven realm. At this moment, except for a trace of power, his entire body, meridians, and bones had been shattered. He had completely become a cripple. What kind of power was so terrifying that it could defeat Shuechen? When did I have such a terrifying power? Murong Yu lay in the level 9 spirit vein and thought strangely in his heart. This power seems to be coming from the Dantian. Murong Yu's divine thought quickly entered the Dantian. Unlike his body that was shattered, Murong Yu's Dantian was fine and did not suffer any damage. Just as Murong Yu entered the Dantian, he found that a very rich life aura was coming from the Dantian. It was very strong and mellow. However, this aura was very unfamiliar. Murong Yu had never come into contact with it at all. Ah, what's going on? Murong Yu exclaimed as soon as he entered the Dantian. In the Dantian, the hearts formed by the 9 black lotuses were beating, but this was not what surprised Murong Yu. Instead, he saw that there seemed to be a tree in his Dantian. In fact, it was not right to call it a tree. It was just a black branch that was more than a meter long and as thick as an adult's arm. It was rooted in the Dantian. On this branch, there was a fresh and tender leaf. This is a fire stick. The fire stick actually sprouted a leaf? Murong Yu looked at the branch with only one leaf in shock. His face was aghast. This fire stick was bought by Murong Yu at the Upper Qingxing auction at a very low price. At that time, Hichu said that this might be the branch of the Tree of Life, the #1 divine tree in the world. Since the so-called branch of the Tree of Life was bought, it automatically entered Murong Yu's dantian, and there had been no abnormalities. In fact, Murong Yu had even forgotten its existence. Now it actually sprouted. Moreover, that powerful life aura was coming from the Tree of Life. Could it really be the Tree of Life? Murong Yu thought suspiciously in his heart and looked around the Tree of Life. However, other than the black branch and the leaf that had just sprouted, he could not see anything else. The power in the dantian was constantly being swallowed by the Tree of Life and then spewed out. The power spewed out from the Tree of Life contained an extremely shocking life force. When this power escaped from the dantian, it began to repair Murong Yu's meridians, bones, and flesh. Wherever it passed, the damaged flesh began to recover rapidly. Chapter 222. Murong Yu was lying in the rank 9 spirit meridian. The spirit chi was like a stream of water, constantly nourishing his body. However, Murong Yu's body had been completely crushed. His meridians and bones were also shattered. Even though his dantian was fine, he couldn't use his mental cultivation method to cultivate. If nothing unexpected happened, it would take a long time for Murong Yu to recover his physical body at this rate. In his dantian, a small leaf had sprouted from the branch of the Tree of Life. The power in his dantian was constantly being devoured by the Tree of Life, and then it was spat out again after being transformed. It was a kind of green power. It was the same as the power that had crushed Shuechen suppression. Murong Yu guessed that it was this power that had saved him. However, what puzzled him was that the power just now was so terrifying. Did the Tree of Life really have such a powerful power? No matter how he looked at it now, the Tree of Life didn't have such power. It didn't take long for the power in his dantian to be transformed into green power. This was because there was no more power entering his dantian. At the same time, Murong Yu saw that the green power had overflowed his dantian and started to enter his body. When the green power came into contact with his damaged body, bones, and meridians, something that shocked Murong Yu happened. Wherever the green energy passed, his damaged body would quickly recover and return to normal. It was more than 100 times more terrifying than his recovery speed at his peak. In a few breaths, the damaged parts near his dantian had been completely restored. Murong Yu was shocked. Is this the power of life? Such a terrifying recovery speed. Murong Yu thought in shock. Now, the power in his dantian was still very little. Only a small amount of power had overflowed from his dantian. However, even if it was only a small amount, it had such a terrifying cultivation speed. What if he was at his peak? If his entire body was filled with this green energy, then even if his physical body, which was at the level of an 8th grade spirit artifact, was destroyed, he would be able to recover in a short period of time. Moreover, the Tree of Life had only just sprouted. If it were to grow in the future and become a towering ancient tree, then wouldn't Murong Yu become an immortal? Of course, this was only Murong Yu's current thought, not to mention whether the Tree of Life could be restored to its original towering form. Even if it could grow, how could his body contain a huge tree? But no matter what, that was a story for later. Right now, the most important thing was to recover his physical body. Looking at the tiny wisps of green energy, Murong Yu felt a little depressed. Although the recovery ability of the green energy was terrifying, it was still too little. At this rate, he did not know when he would be able to recover his physical body. Murong Yu was too greedy. If the branch of the Tree of Life had not sprouted at the crucial moment, without the life force from the Tree of Life to repair his physical body, meridians, and so on, he would have been crippled for life. Although the life force was small, it could at least repair Murong Yu's damaged physical body and meridians. First, open up one meridian. This way, I can use the mental cultivation method to devour the external energy and transform it into true inner force to strengthen the life force. Murong Yu muttered to himself and began to control the tiny life force to repair one of his meridians. The recovery speed of the life force was indeed terrifying. In just half a day, He had completely repaired a shattered meridian. A complete meridian was connected to his dantian. In this way, Muron, you could already use true inner force. Immediately, Muron, you activated the chaotic celestial records and began to devour and refine the energy of the ninth grade spirit vein outside. A large amount of spirit energy was continuously devoured by Muron Yu's meridians and then entered his dantian. Then it was absorbed by the Tree of Life and transformed into green energy. Then it overflowed his dantian and was controlled by Muron Yu to repair even more meridians. As more energy was devoured, more green energy was produced. The more green energy there was, the more powerful Muron Yu's cultivation ability was. As time passed, the second meridian was repaired and more energy was transformed. The third meridian, the fourth meridian, as more and more energy was repaired, more and more green energy was produced. Muron Yu's recovery speed also became faster and faster. This cycle continued. A month later, all of Muron Yu's meridians and physical body had been repaired. Even the bones that had been shattered into powder had been regenerated. On this day, Muron Yu suddenly stood up. Suddenly, his body emitted a crackling sound. After exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Muron Yu's figure flashed and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already on the ground of the extreme heaven realm. It's only been a month, but I've actually recovered from my crippled state. Not only that, my strength has also improved. Muron Yu stood on top of a mountain peak and looked into the distance with a pleasantly surprised expression. Without the Tree of Life, Muron Yu would have died long ago. Even if he was lucky enough not to die, he would be a cripple. Now, he had appeared again, full of energy and vigor. The peak of the spirit-severing stage. Muron Yu felt his strength slightly. He was still at the peak of the spirit-severing stage, but his strength was several times stronger than before the tribulation. Muron Yu's physical body, which had broken through to the grade 8 spiritual vein during his tribulation, was crushed by Shuechen. Originally, Muron Yu thought that his flesh snake had been crippled. Even if it was repaired, it would be impossible for his physical body to reach the grade 8 spiritual artifact rank. But at this moment, his body was stronger than the 8th grade spirit weapon. It had reached the peak of the 8th grade spirit weapon level. He was only one step away from the 9th grade spirit weapon level. The power of life not only has an extremely terrifying recovery ability, but can also refine the body, making it countless times more terrifying than before. Muron Yu punched out with a smile on his face. Bang! With just one punch, several mountains in front of him were blasted into powder. Furthermore, a gigantic black hole had even been blasted into the void. This was just the power of the body. I can kill a few ordinary transformation stage cultivators with one punch. At this moment, Muron Yu was full of confidence. With a thought, dozens of power horned dragon phantoms appeared out of thin air above Muron Yu's head. The power of a total of 75 horned dragons. Compared to the peak of the out-of-body stage, it was 50 more dragon power. In terms of dragon power, Muron Yu was 3 times stronger than before. 75 dragons' power. His dragon's power was much stronger than that of ordinary transformation stage cultivators. It should be known that ordinary transformation stage cultivators only had 70 dragon power. These are just ordinary. The most terrifying thing is the lifespan. Originally, in the transformation stage, I only had a lifespan of 500,000 at most. Now, I'm afraid I have a lifespan of 2 million at least. 2 million lifespan. That was 2 million years. It should be known that ordinary transformation stage cultivators only had a lifespan of 500,000 at most. But Muron Yu, who was only in the spirit-severing stage, had a lifespan of 2 million, which was terrifying. In addition to his physique being different from ordinary people, there was also the relationship with the Tree of Life. After all, the Tree of Life was the Tree of Life. It had a vast amount of life force, which at least doubled Muron Yu's lifespan. I'm looking forward to it. If the Tree of Life fully grows into a tree, how much lifespan will it increase? How terrifying is its recovery ability? With a flash, Murongyu appeared in the Hichu Luoshu world. After appearing beside Hichu, Murongyu found that Hichu's face was dispirited at this time. His breath was disordered, and his face was pale. Obviously, he was seriously injured. Without saying a word, Murongyu put a hand on Hichu's shoulder. Then, like a tide of life force, it spread out from his body and transmitted into Hichu's body. Boundless power, boundless life force. Wherever the power passed, Hichu's injuries were quickly repaired. It didn't take long for them to be completely healed, and there was even progress. This is life force. Murongyu, has the life force grown? Seeing his injuries recover in an instant, Hichu was startled at first. Then he looked at Murongyu with excitement. A leaf has grown, Murongyu said helplessly. The tree of life has sprouted. Hichu laughed. Perhaps others didn't know what the tree of life represented, but Hichu knew very well how terrifying it was. Even the 9 syllables mantra's swordsman formula was far inferior to this divine tree. In addition to possessing extremely terrifying life force and recovery ability, the tree of life had many other powerful aspects that were unknown to others. The others are injured too, right? I'll help them recover from their injuries. Murongyu smiled, then disappeared. Previously, he was suppressed by Shuechun and was almost killed. However, his connection with Hichu Luoshu was still there. He knew that Hichu had joined forces with all the members of Chaos to open the Hichu Luoshu in order to save him. However, they were all defeated by Shuechun's palm, causing all of them to be injured. 100,000 members of Chaos sat cross-legged on the open space, each of them looking dispirited. It was obvious that they hadn't recovered from their injuries after being injured by Shuechun. Murongyu sat cross-legged in front of them and increased his power. Instantly, waves of power escaped from his body like a tide, enveloping everyone. Under the recovery of the incomparably powerful life force, these people's injuries were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. It didn't take long for them to recover completely. Moreover, under the nourishment of the life force, their strength and even their lifespan improved. This was the effect of the life force. However, after healing the injuries of 100,000 people, Murongyu was exhausted. After all, although he was powerful, there was a limit to it. Moreover, there was an endless supply of immortals. Healing the injuries of 100,000 people at once almost exhausted all of his power. Chapter 223. Healing the injuries of 100,000 people in one go and increasing their cultivation by quite a bit, Murongyu had nearly exhausted all of his energy. However, the Tree of Life was terrifying. Under the effect of the Tree of Life, it didn't take long for Murongyu's depleted strength to return to its peak state. Looking at the members of Chaos who were consolidating their cultivation, Murongyu nodded with a smile. Although these people only relied on swallowing the Realm Break pill to reach the unification stage, they tempered their bodies in the tribulation thunder every day. With the guidance of an experienced expert like Hichu, their foundation was very stable. Most importantly, their bodies were more than 10 times stronger than others in the same realm. In fact, the bodies of powerful cultivators were hundreds of times stronger than those of cultivators of the same level. Although they were far inferior to Murongyu, they were still very terrifying. As long as these people reached the transformation stage, Murongyu could rely on Chaos to sweep the entire cultivation world. Even the top 10 sects were no match for him. After a while, we can give them the Tribulation Break pill, Murongyu said to Hichu next to him. After destroying the Su family, Murongyu obtained a Realm Break pill. Now that a long time had passed, Hichu had already broken down the Tribulation Break pill. Not only did he obtain the pill formula, but he also refined countless Tribulation Break pills. Their strength foundation is very stable. They can break through to the tribulation stage in one go. However, although they temper their bodies in the tribulation thunder every day, some of them won't be able to pass through the tribulation thunder safely. Hichu said in a deep voice, "It doesn't matter. Don't we have the Tribulation Cross Golden Pill? With their resistance to the tribulation thunder and the tribulation cross golden pill, I don't believe that they can't pass through the tribulation thunder. If they can't, I'll do it myself. Moroni said lightly. His body was very strong, and he was often struck by lightning. He didn't even care about the tribulation thunder. By the way, Hichu, look at Xuechun. Why does he have the power of an immortal? Although he was powerful, he couldn't possibly be an immortal. I haven't even reached the one-step immortal realm yet. Moroni suddenly frowned. That power is indeed the power of immortals. However, it shouldn't be his own power. It should be some kind of treasure or cultivation method, Hichu said with a frown. If it's some kind of cultivation technique, every time he uses it, it will definitely cause great harm to his body. Even with Xuechun's strength, he wouldn't be able to withstand this kind of cultivation method. If it was a treasure like a Dharma treasure, it should be the same. Such a powerful force should not have appeared in the cultivation world. With Xuechun's strength, using this kind of magic treasure must consume a lot of energy. Moroni muttered to himself for a moment before he heaved a sigh of relief. If Xuechun was really an immortal, then there was no point in fighting. Although Moroni's current strength could kill an ordinary transformation stage cultivator with a single punch, in front of an immortal, he was like an ant. Even if Xuechun didn't use that terrifying power with his original strength, the current Moroni was still not his match. I still need to work hard. Moroni sighed in his heart. Xuechun's strength made Moroni feel great pressure. However, he didn't give up. Xuechun was an expert in the transformation stage, while Moroni was only in the spirit-severing stage. After the spirit-severing stage, there was the body integration stage, the tribulation stage, and then the transformation stage. There were still 4 major realms. With Moroni's strength, if he cultivated to the transformation stage, he would be invincible in the cultivation world. None of the top 10 people on the Dragon Phoenix list are simple. Xuechun is only ranked 3rd. Then Li Su, who is ranked 1st, and Little Rock King, who is ranked 3rd, are even stronger than Xuechun. Moreover, Xuechun has such a terrifying treasure in his hands. The others should also have it. Moroni thought in his heart. However, the stronger they are, the greater the pressure they give me, and the greater the motivation I have. They will all be my stepping stones, helping me to reach the peak of the cultivation world, ascending in broad daylight, and even becoming the strongest person in this world. Moroni's heart was filled with pride. At the same time, the entire cultivation world had long been in a mess because of this. Xuechun, the holy son of the Limitless Sword sect, the young expert ranked 3rd on the Dragon Phoenix list. In the battle with Moroni, he finally revealed his trump card. Perhaps it was some kind of cultivation technique that temporarily increased his strength, or some kind of magic treasure. No one knew what Xuechun had. However, everyone knew that Xuechun could raise his strength to the immortal level in a short period of time. Immortal, that was a legendary existence. An immortal was enough to dominate the entire cultivation world. Even if it was only the lowest level immortal, he could still dominate the entire cultivation world. The difference between an immortal and a half-step immortal was like a natural chasm. If Xuechun's treasure or cultivation technique could allow Xuechun to have the power of an immortal for a long period of time, although he could not destroy the supergiants of the top 10 sects, it was enough to destroy a first-rate sect. After all, that was the power of an immortal. And from the true strength that Xuechun revealed, it could be seen that the young experts ranked at the top of the Dragon Phoenix list all had incomparably powerful strength and all kinds of methods. Those experts were either the chief disciples of the various sects, the holy sons and holy daughters, or even the descendants of some demon kings. No one would believe that they did not have any powerful treasures on them. If Xuechun alone had such a heaven-defying treasure, then what about Li Su, who was ranked 1st, and Little Rock King, who was ranked 2nd? How terrifying was their strength? Were there any similar treasures or cultivation techniques? Looking at the big picture, The strength of the younger generation experts on the Dragon Phoenix list was even stronger than many of the older generation experts. Other than those sect master-level figures, there were only those old monsters who were cultivating in seclusion. And the most shocking one was Murongyu. Under the power of Xue Chen's immortal level, he actually escaped. This person's strength was truly terrifying. Immortals, even the lowest level immortals, could poke and half-step immortal to death with a finger. In that case, did Murongyu have the strength of an half-step immortal? Obviously not, but he had escaped from Xue Chen's hands. There was only one possibility, and that was that Murongyu had a very powerful treasure on him, a treasure that could resist the strength of an immortal. If he didn't kill Murongyu and seize his treasure, then he could almost sweep through the cultivation world. Many cultivators thought so. One by one, they frantically tried to find Murongyu in the cultivation world. Murongyu? Even if he escaped, even if he didn't die, he has already become a cripple. In Fallen Star City, Xue Chen sneered and said he had repeatedly provoked Murongyu and was repeatedly tricked by him. He had long wanted to kill Murongyu. This time, he had used his trump card, but he still couldn't kill Murongyu with the power of an immortal. This made him very unhappy. If he didn't know that Murongyu's body had been crushed by him, Xue Chen would have gone crazy at this moment to find Murongyu and kill him. However, although he was very unhappy that he couldn't kill Murongyu on the spot, he was sure that Murongyu would undoubtedly die. Even if he didn't die, he would be a cripple. A little spirit-severing stage, and actually forced me to use my biggest trump card. Damn it. Xue Chen growled with a gloomy face. As usual, Murongyu disappeared into thin air again and didn't appear for a few months. Many people thought that Murongyu was dead or had become a cripple. After all, Xue Chen had publicly announced on more than one occasion that Murongyu had been killed by him when he was rescued by others. In fact, was Murongyu really killed? Previously, although his physical body was almost smashed into powder by Xue Chen, it only took him a month to recover to his peak state. In the past few months, Murongyu has been cultivating in the Hichu, Luoshu world. Since setting foot on the cultivation world, Murongyu didn't really have much time to cultivate. He was either in a series of battles or in various dangerous places. Although his strength was getting stronger and stronger, it wasn't through meditation. Therefore, during this period, Murongyu cultivated for a period of time, recalling the experience of various battles in the past and asking Hichu about various cultivation problems. Although Murongyu's cultivation hadn't made any breakthroughs in the past half a year, his strength had increased by several folds. On this day, Murongyu recalled all the members of Chaos who were training in the extreme celestial realm to the Hichu, Luoshu world. After this period of cultivation, the foundation of all the members was incomparably solid, and their bodies had become stronger under the tempering of the tribulation thunder. It's time to improve their strength. Although each of these people had reached the peak of the combination realm, they didn't seem to be of any use to Murongyu now. Only by improving their strength to the crossing calamity stage could they barely be of use. Of course, if they could improve their strength to the transformation stage, then Murongyu could almost sweep the cultivation world. Murongyu moved his mind, and suddenly countless crossing calamity pills flew from the depths of the Hichu Luoshu world to the front of each member of Chaos. These are crossing calamity pills, which can help you break through to the crossing calamity stage quickly. Murongyu said in a deep voice, and then he told them some things to pay attention to. Then these people began to swallow the crossing calamity pills. Bang! 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 Not long after, the first person broke through from the combination realm to the crossing calamity stage. The second, the third, under the effect of the almost endless spiritual chi, the 100,000 members of Chaos began to break through continuously. For a time, the void was filled with powerful aura. After a full half a month, everyone stopped breaking through. All 100,000 members had entered the crossing calamity stage. Among them, there were more people in the early stage of the crossing calamity stage and many in the middle stage of the crossing calamity stage. There were even dozens of people with excellent qualifications who had entered the late stage of the crossing calamity stage and could almost summon the 49 heavenly tribulations. However, these people had just entered the late stage of the crossing calamity stage. The 49 heavenly tribulations would only appear when they were at the peak of the late stage of the crossing calamity stage. As long as they passed the 49 heavenly tribulations, they would successfully enter the transformation stage and have a chance of becoming an immortal. Chapter 2:24. 100,000 Tribulation Passing Stage Cultivators. Everyone in the Chaos world had reached the Tribulation Passing Stage, which was very terrifying. In the cultivation world, the 10 great sects and various super sects and families had many disciples. Just like the 10 great sects, each sect had hundreds of thousands of disciples. In terms of numbers, they were several times more than the Chaos world. However, their sects would definitely not have so many Tribulation Passing Stage cultivators. How many Tribulation Passing Stage cultivators were there? It was impossible. Generally speaking, the 10 great sects only had 1 in 1,000 Tribulation Passing Stage cultivators. Even 1 in 100 was impossible. To a certain extent, the Chaos world's strength had surpassed these 10 great sects. However, in terms of top experts, the Chaos world was far inferior to the 10 great sects. They did not even have a single transformation stage cultivator, let alone a first-step immortal or a half-step immortal. Once such a cultivator appeared in the Chaos world, the Chaos world would be one of the most powerful forces in the cultivation world. After the members of the Chaos world broke through to the Tribulation Passing Stage collectively, Muronyu let them continue to cultivate in the Hichu Luoshu world and the Extreme Heaven realm. Muronyu did not need them for the time being. As for Muronyu, he had already left the world of He-Tu and Luoshu and appeared in the cultivation world outside. It had been a few months since the battle between Muronyu and Shuechun. However, during these few months, the discussion about them did not stop. Muronyu naturally became the most popular cultivator of the younger generation. He became a person who everyone wanted to kill and then snatch his treasures. He was a moving treasure trove with incomparable temptation. What's Muronyu? He's just an undeserved reputation. He just didn't meet me before. If I met him, I could crush him with a finger. Muronyu had just appeared in a small city when he heard an arrogant voice. Haha, Brother Fong is right. Muronyu is just relying on the various treasures in his hands. Brother Fong cultivated step by step to reach the 80th place on the Dragon Phoenix list. How can that Muronyu compare to you? Another voice said with a laugh. However, although that Murongyu's strength isn't that great, he's still quite strong. However, he is a moving treasure trove. If we can kill him off, even the top 10 fellows on the Dragon Phoenix list will not pose a threat to us, the cultivator surnamed Fong said with a sneer. Unfortunately, it is said that Muronyu has already been killed. That Shuechun is actually so terrifying. He has the power of an immortal. Another person said in shock. He's just relying on external forces. If you rely on your own strength, you are nothing in my eyes. The man surnamed Fong sneered disdainfully. Fong Xiong's entire arm had exploded in an instant. A cultivator in the Tribulation Transcendence realm had his arm shattered by Murongyu's finger. Fong Xiong screamed as he was sent flying backwards. He managed to dissipate the force of the attack and keep his nickname. This was because Muronyu hadn't tried to kill him. Otherwise, Muronyu could have crushed him to death with a finger. With his arm shattered, Fong Xiong's face turned pale from the pain. He looked at Muronyu in horror and asked in a trembling voice, "Who are you?" In the eyes of Fong Xiong and the others, Muronyu was no longer a small master in the spirit-severing stage, but a terrifying powerhouse who pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. Who am I? Didn't you just say that if I met you, I would be crushed to death by your finger? Muronyu sneered. You are Muronyu. Hearing Murong Yu's words, everyone's hearts sank. At this time, they finally realized that Murong Yu was carrying a black spear on his back. Carrying a spear on his back was Murong Yu's trademark. Combining the two, they guessed Murong Yu's identity. It's Murong Yu. Everyone's hearts sank, and their eyes showed a look of horror. Although they said that they could crush Murong Yu with a finger, they were still afraid. However, when they really faced Murong Yu, they realized that they were so frightened. Murong Yu's name was like a tree shadow. Murong Yu was infamous and powerful. How could they fight against him? Of course, they only talked about it behind his back. Who dared to face him? Even Fang Xiong was so scared that his face turned pale. Haha, you are Murong Yu. Your strength is really good. Do you know who I am? I am the young powerhouse of the Fang family, the next patriarch. Do you know what the Fang family is? A big family. Take out all your wealth immediately. Kneel down and beg me for mercy, and I may not pursue you. Otherwise, the Fang family will definitely chase you to death. Fang Xiong suddenly looked at Murong Yu and laughed. Murong Yu looked at Fang Xiong as if he was looking at an idiot. He was a little depressed. Is this idiot's brain fried? Does he think he can keep me here? That's right. Put down all your wealth, kowtow to our young master, and we will let you go. Otherwise, you will definitely die. At this moment, a gloomy voice came from outside. Then, two middle-aged men walked in. Ha ha ha! Murong Yu suddenly laughed. Just with the two of you, third uncle, he is Murong Yu. As long as we kill him and get his treasure, our Fang family may become a first-class family. Fang Xiong's face was ferocious, and he looked at Murong Yu with hatred. Take out all your wealth, kowtow, and become a servant of our Fang family. Otherwise, you will definitely die today. The middle-aged man called third uncle by Fang Xiong looked at Murong Yu indifferently. At the same time, a powerful aura that belonged to the transformation stage came out of his body, and it pressed down on Murong Yu. Are you kidding me? Murong Yu's eyes narrowed slightly, but his face showed a smile. If someone familiar with him was here, they would know that this guy definitely had the intention to kill. Kneel down. Fang Hai shouted coldly. A violent and terrifying aura came out of his body like a stormy sea. It pressed down on Murong Yu crazily, trying to force Murong Yu to kneel down. Murong Yu sneered. He just stood there, his black hair and clothes fluttering. However, he was calm. Not to mention that Fang Hai was a cultivator who had just stepped into the transformation stage. Even the pressure of the heavenly tribulation could not make Murong Yu kneel down. You are courting death, do you know that? Courting death, do you know that? Murong Yu laughed, and his smile was very bright. Shua! Fang Hai stretched out his hand and grabbed at Murong Yu, intending to crush his head with his bare hands. You dare to attack me. Your Fang family is finished. Fang family is finished, do you know that? Murong Yu smiled, and then he punched out. Puff! With one punch, the void shattered, and flesh and blood flew out. Fang Hai, a cultivator who had just stepped into the transformation stage, could not withstand Murong Yu's strength. He was punched into a cloud of blood. A few months ago, I could kill a transformation stage cultivator with one punch. Today, a few months later, my strength has increased by several times. Killing you is like slaughtering dogs. Murong Yu withdrew his fist and looked at Fang Xiong and the others coldly. Fang Xiong and the others showed a look of horror. Fang Hai was a transformation stage cultivator, one of the few experts in the Fang family. However, he was killed by Murong Yu with one punch. Chapter 225. All of you will die. Murong Yu withdrew his fist and looked coldly at Fang Xiong and the others. You dare to kill me? My father is the patriarch of the Fang family. If you dare to kill me, my father will definitely kill you. When he met Murong Yu's eyes, Fang Xiong's heart trembled. He involuntarily stepped back and said fiercely, Are you threatening me? Murong Yu's face showed a strange expression. Although you are strong, you are definitely not a match for the Fang family. If you leave now, I promise that the Fang family will not pursue this matter. Fang Xiong's eyes were filled with fear, but he pretended to be calm. However, as he spoke, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He was extremely resentful. Although these expressions were hidden, Yu still managed to catch them. As long as I leave here, Yu, you will definitely die. Even if I have to use all my strength, I will let my father kill you. Fang Xiong roared angrily in his heart. You don't know the meaning of death. Yu snorted coldly. He stretched out his hand and directly grabbed Fang Xiong. Then he said coldly, You say it very nicely, but in your heart, you must be thinking of ways to deal with me, right? A terrifying, murderous intent forced into Fang Xiong's body. At this moment, Fang Xiong was almost scared to death. No, as long as you let me go, the Fang family will definitely not find trouble with you. Fang Xiong was really afraid. He was afraid that Yu would use a little strength, and then he would be crushed into powder. Sorry, I have never trusted others, especially enemies. So, you can go to hell. Yu smiled and used more strength to crush Fang Xiong. Father, why are you still not coming to kill me? Feeling Yu's undisguised murderous intent, Fang Xiong was almost scared to death. At the same time, he roared angrily. Who wants to kill my son? At this moment, a monstrous force fiercely emitted from Fang Xiong's body and swept in all directions. A terrifying power erupted, and Yu, who was caught unprepared, was forced to take a few steps back. It was to the extent that the entire restaurant was blasted into smithereens under the impact of this terrifying power. Countless cultivators were unable to withstand such a powerful force and were crushed to death. Yu was slightly taken aback. The space between Yu's eyebrows suddenly split open, and then a monstrous golden hand reached out from the depths of his brows, carrying with it a terrifying power that could shatter the heavens and shatter the earth as it viciously slapped down on Yu. The giant hand came down menacingly, its power extremely terrifying, collapsing the heavens and splitting the earth, even shattering the void. This was definitely an expert in the transformation stage. His strength was many times stronger than Fang Hai, who had just been killed. He should be the Fang clan's patriarch. This bastard had actually left his divine sense on Fang Xiong. As long as Fang Xiong was in mortal danger, this spiritual sense would appear and help Fang Xiong kill his enemy. It was just like the Greenback King that Yu had encountered. However, although the Fang clan's patriarch was powerful, he was far inferior to the Greenback King. Moreover, Yu's strength was now dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than before. It's just a spiritual sense. If your real body had come, it would have been more likely. Yu sneered and punched out at the same time. Boom! The two giant hands collided violently. In an instant, an incomparably terrifying power erupted. The incomparably powerful force pushed Yu back, causing his blood and qi to churn. Die! A golden middle-aged man's shadow stepped out from between Fang Xiong's eyebrows. With a cold shout, he slapped down on Yu. Yu took a deep breath, suppressed the churning blood in his body, and instantly increased his strength. With a cold shout, he punched out again. It's just a spiritual sense and a shadow. Break! As he punched out, a black power surged out, bringing with it traces of black lightning, exuding a terrifying aura. The incomparably sturdy space was constantly distorted by Yu's power. Terrifying cracks were constantly being torn open in the space around Yu. Boom! After a deafening explosion, the two sides collided again. This time, Yu was pushed back again. However, the golden shadow did not have it easy either. After being bombarded by Yu's power, it became much dimmer. Kill! Yu let out a low roar and rushed forward. Thousand Army Elephant Fist. Bang! 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 In an instant, Yu had punched tens of thousands of times. Powerful and tyrannical, the violent power bombarded the golden shadow until it became dimmer and dimmer. Junior, you're courting death. How dare you attack me? When my real body arrives, I'll kill you. Perhaps he felt that his spiritual sense was no match for Murong-yu. The golden figure let out a low roar and sent Murong-yu flying back with a slap. Then he grabbed Fong Xiong with one hand and flew off into the distance in a flash. "Since you're here, don't leave." Murong-yu growled and used the army formula. He turned into a streamer and chased after the golden shadow. Great Vajra Chakra Seal. Murong-yu let out a roar and stretched out his arms. Suddenly, a huge seal, comparable to a sacred mountain, appeared in the void in front of them. The black seal was surrounded by traces of black lightning, carrying with it the power to destroy heaven and earth. It pressed down on Fong Xiong and Fong Xiong. Seeing the terrifying seal that covered the sky and crushed the sky, Fong Xiong was almost scared to death. His face was full of fear. The golden shadow, on the other hand, had a solemn look on its face. It stretched out its hand and punched upwards with all its might. Poof! The Great Vajra Wheel print was a complementary attack of the army formula of the 9 words mantra. Its power was terrifying. Furthermore, the wheel seal was formed by the power of chaos and black lightning. It was hundreds of times more powerful than the wheel seal formed by ordinary power. The golden shadow punched out a huge fist that could tear the sky and earth apart. It could even break the void. However, before it could get close to the Great Vajra Wheel print, it was crushed by the terrifying power of the Great Vajra Wheel print. The Great Vajra Wheel print carried with it a terrifying power that crushed the sky and pressed down. "You're courting death." Just as the Great Vajra Wheel print was about to kill Fong Xiong and the Golden Shadow, a furious roar came from afar. The terrifying voice came from afar. Countless lives and even buildings nearby exploded under the attack of the sound wave. At the same time, a huge golden hand appeared out of nowhere, trying to rescue the trapped Fong Xiong. "Die!" Murong-yu roared as he activated the Great Vajra Chakra Seal and ruthlessly pressed down. Poof! Finally, before the huge hand arrived, the Great Vajra Chakra Seal came crashing down, crushing Fong Xiong and the Golden Shadow into dust. Fong Xiong, a furious roar came from afar, shattering the void and causing the earth to tremble. At the same time, a terrifying aura swept over from afar and tried to strangle Murong-yu. The large hand from before swatted towards Murong-yu from the air. "You kill my son. No matter who you are, you're dead." The huge hand covered the sky as it slapped down on Murong-yu. Murong-yu's expression did not change. He looked ahead indifferently and said, "You want to kill me?" As he spoke, Murong-yu took out the phoenix spear. At the same time, he raised his strength to the limit and stabbed out. A black spear light that was as big as the Milky Way shot out and stabbed the huge golden hand. Bang! Murong-yu's all-out attack was much more powerful than the one he'd used before. The power of the two sides collided fiercely, and then both of them exploded. The terrifying impact swept in all directions. Murong-yu let out a muffled groan as if he had suffered a heavy blow and was sent flying. As for the golden hand, it was also shattered. "I will kill you no matter where you go. You must die today." An ice-cold voice filled with terrifying killing intent rang out. At the same time, the void shattered as a middle-aged man, shrouded in golden light, stepped out from the void and charged towards Murong-yu. This person was the same as the shadow that appeared between Fong Xiong's eyebrows. He should be the patriarch of the Fong family. Murong-yu's body swayed, and he steadied himself. Although he was sent flying, he was not injured at all with his grade 8 spiritual weapon and body that was close to grade 9 spiritual weapon. Although the patriarch of the Fong family was powerful, he was far from Shuechun. Murong-yu estimated that the patriarch was at most in the middle stage of the transformation stage. At this stage, he could not do anything to Murong-yu. It should be said that Murong-yu still had the strength to fight against a cultivator at this stage. Murong-yu's eyes lit up as black energy continuously gushed out from his body. His battle intent soared to the heavens as well. "Die!" The patriarch of the Fong family shouted and punched Murong-yu. Murong Yu's heart was filled with lofty sentiments as he roared and thrust his phoenix spear forward. Boom! 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 The battle broke out instantly. The black and white energy were like divine dragons between heaven and earth. Wherever the energy passed, the void was shattered. The earth and mountains were flattened. If they had not been far away from the small city when the battle started, the small city would have been shattered by the aftermath of their energy. Elephant pulling fist. Great Vajra will print. Tiger roaring imperial fist. Murong Yu became braver as the battle went on. He used almost all of his combat skills. He exploded with a terrifying battle strength to fight the patriarch of the Fong family. The patriarch of the Fong family lived up to his name as an expert in the middle stage of the transformation stage. His battle strength was terrifying. If it were anyone else, even if they were in the early stage of the transformation stage, they would have been beaten to death by the patriarch of the Fong family. However, he could not do anything to Murong Yu. They were evenly matched. Murong Yu became braver as the battle went on, but the patriarch of the Fong family became more and more frightened. The fact that he couldn't kill Murong Yu even with his strength made him extremely furious. Chapter 226. Murong Yu's entire body was shrouded in a dense black power. Traces of electric light were constantly jumping around in the power. It was quite strange, but also exuded an incomparably powerful aura. His black hair danced wildly, and the aura on his body rose to the extreme. He was like a demon god that had descended to the human world, standing proudly between heaven and earth. His aura gushed out crazily like a tide, tearing the sky and the earth apart. Even the void was torn apart. And the Fong family's patriarch in front of him was not weak either. His entire body was shining with golden light. Like a small sun, a dazzling divine light enveloped him, protecting his entire body. At this time, the two of them were really fighting. They fought fiercely. It was really a battle that caused the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. The sun and moon lost their light. The sky changed color, and even the sky and earth shook. The mountains were shattered, the rivers were cut off, the earth collapsed, and the void was shattered. This was a battle between two powerhouses. The aura of the two of them burst out far away, enveloping a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Except for the two of them, everything within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was shattered by the power that erupted from them. Even powerful cultivators did not dare to get too close. Dragon Elephant Prajna Technique. Tiger Roar Imperial Fist. Great Vajra Chakra Seal. Murong Yu used almost all the attack methods he knew. And the Fong family's patriarch was not bad either. Waves of unparalleled power were struck out by him, destroying the sky and earth. Even the sky was shattered. Black and golden horned dragons kept roaring, letting out a series of loud dragon roars. They crazily attacked in the void, wanting to tear the other party into pieces. However, although the Fong family's patriarch was a powerhouse in the middle stage of the transformation stage, Murong Yu was not bad either. Although he was only in the spirit-severing stage, he had the power of 75 dragons, which was similar to the Fong family's patriarch. Although the Fong family's patriarch was in the middle stage of the transformation stage and was also the patriarch of the family, limited by his own aptitude, his dragon power did not even reach 80. He only had 77 dragon power, which was not much different from Murong Yu. For ordinary cultivators, the power of two horned dragons could only be suppressed. But Murong Yu was not an ordinary cultivator. In addition to the dragon power, he also had a body that was almost at the level of a 9th grade spirit artifact. His physical strength was also extremely terrifying. If it weren't for the fact that his cultivation level was too low and suppressed by the Fong clan leader's cultivation level, he could have easily killed the Fong clan leader. However, Murong Yu was confident that he could kill the Fong family patriarch. The more the Fong family patriarch grew, the more fearful and agitated he became. Even with his ability, he was unable to harm Murong Yu. Murong Yu's fleshly body was akin to an immortal artifact. despite sending out a punch, it was incapable of harming him in the slightest. On the other hand, he was already injured, and a drop of blood was dripping from the corner of his mouth. After all, his strength was about the same as Murongyu's, but his physical body was far inferior to Murongyu's. If it weren't for the suppression of his cultivation level, he would have been defeated long ago. However, if this continued, it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. In the middle of the battle, Murongyu suddenly punched the Fong family's patriarch and sent him flying. At the same time, he laughed loudly and said, "Ha! Fong family patriarch, you can go on your way." In the previous battle, Murongyu was merely using the Fong family patriarch to train himself. Now, the battle with the Fong family patriarch could no longer increase his cultivation level. How arrogant! The Fong family patriarch shouted angrily. He took a step forward and instantly disappeared from where he stood. He teleported behind Murongyu and threw a punch at Murongyu. Murongyu didn't even look. It was as if he had eyes behind his back. Using the army formula, he turned into a flash of black light and disappeared from where he stood. Endless heavenly thunder destroy the heavens and earth. Kill! Murongyu suddenly roared. Boom! Before Murongyu's voice faded away, the void was already surrounded by thick tribulation clouds. Endless tribulation lightning poured down like raindrops, enveloping the entire heaven and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Seeing the tribulation lightning, the Fong family patriarch's eyes flashed with fear. Tribulation lightning was every cultivator's nightmare. Even those in the metamorphosis stage were terrified by the tribulation lightning, especially the Fong family patriarch. After seeing the sky full of tribulation lightning, he was reminded of the time when the tribulation lightning almost killed him. In the end, he used all his strength and almost died before he managed to climb the stairway to heaven and create a small crack on the gate of immortality. Now, seeing the sky full of tribulation lightning reminded him of the time when he was undergoing the tribulation. Because of this, his heart sank a little. However, he was a powerhouse who went through the tribulation lightning after all. Although he was scared of the tribulation lightning, he wasn't afraid because of this. Plus, after he went through the tribulation lightning, his physical body already had a certain resistance to the tribulation lightning. He shouted, and his entire body exploded with an even more blinding golden light. Like a small sun, it was extremely blinding and powerful. Heaven-breaking punch. The Fong family patriarch roared and threw a punch. Instantly, the violent golden energy was like a flood. It tore apart the tribulation lightning in front of him and turned it into dust. So much so that an incomparably large passageway was created in the void as it headed straight for Murongyu. Murongyu used the army formula, and his body was unpredictable. Like a ghost, he disappeared into the distance. The Fong family patriarch's attack did not even touch the corner of his clothes. Fong family patriarch, you are indeed the patriarch of a family. You are so powerful that you can even disperse the tribulation lightning. I wonder how many tribulation lightning you can disperse. Murongyu's emotionless voice was heard. At the same time, the tribulation clouds in the sky were even more terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. After an earth-shattering rumble, the sky full of lightning struck down. Before, the tribulation lightning was only the size of a finger. Now, the tribulation lightning was as thick as a bucket. Its power was more than 100 times stronger than before. The Fong family patriarch's expression changed drastically as he roared. His body flashed with golden light as he threw out punch after punch. In fact, he even used countless spiritual weapons to resist the power of the tribulation thunder. First-grade spiritual weapons, second-grade spiritual weapons. The highest grade was a seventh-grade spiritual weapon flying sword. The Fong family was not even a first-rate force. It was already very powerful for them to have a seventh-grade spiritual weapon flying sword. Bang, bang, bang. However, these spiritual weapon flying swords could not withstand a single blow from the tribulation lightning that was as thick as a bucket. They were instantly shattered into pieces. Even the power unleashed by the Fong clan's patriarch was shattered right away. They could not withstand a single blow. As Murong Yu's power increased, the tribulation lightning he summoned also became more powerful. This time, the tribulation lightning he summoned was more than 10 times stronger than before. Ah! The Fong family patriarch screamed. His entire body was struck by the tribulation lightning until he looked like a piece of charcoal. His hair stood on end, and he looked extremely ferocious. However, the golden light barrier around his body had already been shattered. Whoosh! The heavily injured Fong family patriarch's body swayed. He teleported and was about to escape. Although being defeated by Murong Yu was extremely humiliating, it was still a fact that Murong Yu had humiliated him. However, losing face was better than losing his life. Therefore, he did not dare to continue fighting with Murong Yu. He chose to escape. Fong family patriarch, since you're here, you should stay. Murong Yu did not chase after him. As he spoke, he placed the spear of Phoenix on his back again. At the same time, he grabbed the air. In the next moment, a golden bow and a divine arrow appeared in his hands. Bow of the cosmos, heaven-shaking arrow. Fong family patriarch, you can't escape, Murong Yu said calmly. At the same time, he drew the bow and released the arrow. Even with Murong Yu's current strength, the cosmos bow was only able to draw a small semicircle. However, its might was 100 times stronger than before. Whoosh! Murong Yu abruptly loosened his grip. There was an extremely sharp but almost inaudible sound of something breaking through the air. A golden ray of light shot out from the bow of the cosmos. As soon as the heaven-shaking arrow left the bow of the cosmos, it disappeared in front of Murong Yu. It actually escaped into the void. Ah! Just as Murong Yu released the arrow, a shrill scream came from the void tens of thousands of miles away. At the same time, the originally calm void exploded into a cloud of blood mist. In the blood mist, a golden light flashed and disappeared. At this moment, Murong Yu, who was tens of thousands of miles away, had just put down his hand. Suddenly, a golden light appeared out of nowhere and finally stopped in front of Murong Yu. It was the heaven-shaking arrow. In the blink of an eye, the heaven-shaking arrow killed the Fong family patriarch, who was teleporting in the void tens of thousands of miles away. Then, it returned to Murong Yu's hand. This speed was even more terrifying than teleportation. What was even more terrifying was the power of the heaven-shaking arrow. One arrow killed a cultivator in the middle stage of the transformation realm. The Fong family patriarch didn't even have time to react. The bow of the cosmos is still the bow of the cosmos. It's too powerful. Murong Yu put the bow of the cosmos and the heaven-shaking arrow back into the Hichu Luoshu world. I wonder when I can draw the bow to its fullest. If that's the case, how powerful can the bow of the cosmos be? It must be very terrifying. Murong Yu was looking forward to it. Although he could draw the bow of the cosmos into a semicircle now, he had to rely on the power of burning elixirs to activate it. Moreover, even if he burned elixirs, he couldn't draw the bow continuously. The heaven-shaking arrow shot like this didn't have any power at all. It probably didn't even have a billionth of its power. According to Hichu, if the bow of the cosmos and the heaven-shaking arrow were to unleash their full power, they could kill anyone. They could even shoot through the sky and kill across realms. The so-called killing across realms meant that if Murong Yu had the ability now, he didn't need to go to the immortal world. He only needed to shoot an arrow here to kill a powerhouse in the immortal world. Chapter 227. The Fong family was a second-rate sect in the cultivation world. They were not very powerful, but they were not weak either. In fact, the Fong family had 3 transformation stage cultivators. They were very powerful. In the cultivation world, no matter if it was a family or a sect, as long as they had 1 transformation stage cultivator, they could become a first-rate sect. However, even among the first-rate sects, there were strong and weak ones. For example, the Fong family was at the bottom of the first-rate sections. However, The Fong family was the overlord of this large state. As the overlord of a large state, the Fong family was not weak. They must have plundered a lot of wealth. As a good young man, Murong, you would never let go of the Fong family's wealth. At this moment, the Fong family was surrounded by tens of thousands of men in black. All of them were in the tribulation stage. A powerful and terrifying aura was emitted from their bodies. It swept across the land. It was very terrifying. This was an army full of murderous aura. It was an army made up entirely of tribulation stage cultivators. A total of 10,000 men in black surrounded the Fong family. This formation and terrifying aura made people's hearts turn cold and their souls tremble. In the Fong family, there was a transformation stage cultivator. In addition, there were dozens of tribulation stage cultivators. Apart from them, the rest of the Fong family were not very powerful. Facing the menacing men in black, the Fong family members' faces changed. They all looked at the black-clothed people outside in terror. They did not know who they were and why they were surrounding the Fong family. Could it be that the Fong family offended a sect that they could not afford to offend? Many people in the Fong family were almost scared to death. However, although many people were scared to death, there were also some who were not. For example, the only transformation stage cultivator left, Fong Tong. At this moment, Fong Tong slowly rose into the air with a gloomy face. He looked at the men in black and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, what is the meaning of this? Why are you surrounding the Fong family?" "Of course, we are going to destroy the Fong family." A calm voice came from the crowd. Then, Fong Tong saw a black-clothed young man walk out from the group of black-clothed men. A cold, murderous intent flashed across Fong Tong's face. He stared coldly at Murong Yu and murderously said, "Destroy the Fong family? You sure talk big." Murong Yu was only at the spirit-severing stage. Fong Tong could tell at a glance. However, the tens of thousands of men in black did not show up. They were all dressed in the same uniform and did not even say a word. However, although this young man was only at the severed soul stage, he wasn't dressed in the same way as the men in black. Obviously, this young man was the leader of this group of men in black. "What? Do you think I don't have the ability to destroy the Fong clan?" This black-clothed youth was Murong Yu. "Your Fong clan's patriarch and that Fong Hai have already been killed by me. Although the Fong family is powerful, you're the only one in the transformation stage, right? My people are all at the crossing tribulation stage. Do you think I have the ability to destroy your Fong family?" Fong Tong's face changed slightly. His eyes flashed with murderous intent as he looked at Murong Yu. In fact, he also knew that Murong Yu was telling the truth. The moment Fong clan's patriarch and Fong Hai died, he already knew that the two of them were killed. Originally, he thought that they had provoked a powerhouse that they couldn't afford to provoke, but he didn't expect that they were killed by Murong Yu. Of course, he didn't think that Murong had the strength to kill Fong Hai. It must be the person behind Murong Yu who killed the Fong family's patriarch and Fong Hai. The relationship between Murong Yu and the person behind him must be deep. As long as he took down Murong Yu, he might be able to resolve the crisis of the Fong family. Thinking of this, Fong Tong smiled ferociously. His figure flashed and disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already beside Murong Yu. He stretched out his big hand and grabbed Murong Yu's head. "You're overestimating yourself." Murong Yu's expression didn't change as he shouted in a low voice. Then he quickly punched out. Boom! After a loud explosion, Fong Tong, a cultivator in the transformation stage, was directly sent flying. His whole body drew a long trace in the void as he floated into the distance. In the process, he spat out blood. How is it possible? He's only at the spirit-severing stage. How can he injure me with one move? Fong Tong was extremely shocked. Not only had he been sent flying by Murong Yu's punch, but the hand he just extended had also been shattered to pieces. And Murong Yu's strength broke countless bones in his body, causing him to spit out blood. Could it be that he suppressed his cultivation? Yes, this bastard is pretending to be weak. At this moment, Fong Tong was very shocked. Sorry, I'm really not pretending to be weak. I'm really only in the spirit severing stage. Muronyu used the army character formula and chased after Fong Tong like a shadow. His indifferent voice was clearly transmitted to Fong Tong's ears. Fong Tong was even more shocked. Impossible, who are you? Why do you want to destroy my Fong family? From a moment Muronyu attacked, Fong Tong knew that the Fong family was doomed this time. The Fong family only relied on the three of them, who were in the transformation stage. Now that the two of them were killed by Muronyu, it would be difficult for them to escape the fate of being killed. Once the three of them died, the Fong family would collapse and be directly uprooted. I forgot to tell you, I'm Muronyu. You can die in peace. Muronyu said indifferently. At the same time, he punched out. Bang! With one punch, the sky fell and the earth cracked. The terrifying power even shattered the void and caused it to collapse. Fong Tong and Fong Hai were the same. They had just broken through to the transformation stage not long ago. Their strength was too far apart from the Fong family's patriarch. One punch. With just one punch, Fong Tong was blown apart by Muronyu. For this kind of cultivator, Muronyu didn't even need any battle techniques. He only needed one punch to kill them. Second family patriarch is dead. On the ground, countless Fong family members saw Fong Tong being blown apart by Muronyu. They were shocked and angry, but more than that, they were terrified. They were terrified and uneasy, afraid that Muronyu would kill them as well. Only resistance? Even a transformation stage cultivator was blown apart by one punch. Moreover, there were tens of thousands of black, clothed people outside the Fong family. They didn't even dare to move, let alone resist. After killing Fong Tong, Muronyu looked down at the Fong family without changing his expression. He said, I, Muronyu, am not a bad person. The reason why I killed your patriarch was because they attacked me first. Remember, all of this was caused by Fong Xiong of your family. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have done anything to you. So, you only have yourself to blame. Now, I'll give you a choice. Leave the Fong family. If you don't leave the Fong family in an hour, I'll kill you. Muronyu didn't have any grudges with these people. He didn't need to kill them all. He only surrounded the Fong family because he cared about the Fong family's wealth. Hearing Murongyu's words, the Fong family members didn't hesitate and quickly rushed out. They were afraid that they would be killed by Muronyu if they were late. Muronyu naturally didn't stop them. In less than an hour, the Fong clan was completely empty. Everyone had left. Not a single person was left behind. Take everything that can be taken away. Zhang Ao waved his hand. Suddenly, the surrounding black, clothed people, who were also members of the chaos, rushed into the Fong family. Like the Su family in Fallen Star City, the Fong family also had their own treasure vault. Although it was hidden, it was quickly found by Zhang Ao and the others. However, there was still a big gap between the Fong family and the Su family in Fallen Star City. It was far inferior to the Su family. They only had a level 1 spiritual vein that was close to drying up. Muronyu naturally didn't care about these riches. However, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. In the end, Muronyu moved all of these to Hichu Luo Shu, leaving no one behind. Just as Muronyu was about to leave the treasure vault, he suddenly found a roll of yellow sheepskin in the corner of a room. The sheepskin was only the size of a palm. It was thrown in the corner, and there was nothing special about it. However, when Muronyu saw this sheepskin, he vaguely felt that this sheepskin was extraordinary. He could vaguely feel the aura of this sheepskin. It was just like the sheepskin he bought at Treasure Street in Fallen Star City. Could it be related to that sheepskin? Muronyu reached out and took the sheepskin. It had the same texture as the sheepskin he bought at Treasure Street in Fallen Star City. Muronyu took out the 2 sheepskin scrolls and compared them. Then he realized that these 2 broken sheepskin scrolls should be the fragments of the same sheepskin scroll. It seems like a map, but it's not connected. Muronyu muttered. These 2 pieces of sheepskin scrolls, which even he couldn't tear apart, were now broken into pieces. Who had the ability to tear this sheepskin scroll? Could it be a treasure map or a map of some ruins? Morong pondered. If it's really a treasure map or a map of ruins, then the place on the map is definitely not ordinary. Morong's heart was burning with passion. A piece of sheepskin scroll that even he couldn't tear apart, and it was a fragment of a map. All signs indicated that this map was not simple. It was a pity that he didn't know how big this map was originally and how many fragments it had broken into. If he wanted to explore the ruins on the map, he had to collect all the fragments of the map. However, the cultivation world was incomparably vast. Where could he find these fragments of the map? Morong sighed and threw the 2 fragments of the map into Hichu Luoshu. Search slowly. Since we've already found 2 fragments, there must be other fragments. We'll find them one day. Morong shook his head and left the Fong family. After keeping the Chaos members in Hichu Luoshu world, Morong left and walked towards the hidden fairy valley. Chapter 228. Ever since leaving the hidden fairy valley, Morong hadn't returned to Qingxian Peak for several years, nor had he seen Zhao Jiqing. This time, he decided to return to Qingxian Peak first before heading to the Demon Mountain. Although Morong's strength had grown and his body had almost reached the 8th rank, he still hadn't recovered from his injuries. Ordinary transformation stage cultivators were no match for him. However, he still wasn't a match for Xuechun and the others. The cultivation world was so vast that apart from Xuechun and the other young powerhouses on the Dragon and Phoenix rankings, there were certainly other powerhouses, including those of the older generation. These people were so strong that they could even shatter 9th-rank spirit weapons with their bare hands. Take Xuechun, for example. Although Morong's body was strong, if Xuechun unleashed the strength of an immortal, Morong would only be suppressed. He wouldn't even be able to escape. After all, once the void was sealed, Morong wouldn't even have a chance to enter Hichu Luoshu. Therefore, he urgently wanted to improve his strength. However, how could it be so easy to increase his strength? Even if he had the Realm Break pellet, Morong wouldn't be willing to consume it to increase his cultivation unless he had no other choice. After all, the cultivation that one cultivated step by step was the most powerful, the purest, and also the most stable. The reason he wanted to go to the Demon Mountain was because of the Tree of Life. Morong's body was getting stronger and stronger, and so was his strength. However, there was a drawback. His body was so strong that he could absolutely sweep through cultivators of the same level. Even those several realms higher than him were no match for him. However, the biggest drawback was that if his body was broken, it would be extremely difficult for him to repair it. For example, if it weren't for the Tree of Life, Morong wouldn't have been able to repair his body and would have been crippled long ago. However, the life force flowing from the Tree of Life had an extremely strong restorative ability. However, the Tree of Life had only sprouted a single leaf, or rather, it couldn't even be considered a leaf. It was only in a budding state. The life force converted by the Tree of Life was simply too weak. Although its recovery ability was very strong, it was not enough in a battle. As for the Tree of Life, it was the first life form in the world. It was born in the primal chaos, connected to the world, and possessed unimaginable power. If he could let the Tree of Life in his Dantian grow into a tree, or even a towering tree, then even if Morong's body was smashed to pieces, he could still recover in an instant. However, Morong's current true essence was simply unable to make the Tree of Life grow quickly. Only the purest primal chaos energy would allow the Tree of Life to grow quickly. As for Morong, he only knew that there was a chaos spiritual vein in the Devil Mountain. He decided to use the chaos spiritual vein's spiritual energy to grow the Tree of Life. Are you Morong, Zushinzong's traitor? On this day, not long after Morong arrived at a city, an arrogant young man appeared in front of him and looked at Morong with disdain. Morong narrowed his eyes slightly. He could feel a sky-high, killing intent from this young man. This guy was harboring ill intentions towards him. That's right. Who are you? Morong sneered. This guy's strength was not bad and had already reached the tribulation passing stage. However, Murong still did not put him in his eyes. Murong did not know how many cultivators of this level he had killed. Zushenzong's holy son candidate, Ma Tianqing. The young man sneered and took a step forward. A violent energy exploded, crushing the void and collapsing the earth. Like a raging wave, the aura crazily pressed towards Murong, wanting to crush Murong. Holy son candidate? A strange smile appeared on Murong's face. He had only heard of the head disciple, holy son, and holy daughter. He had never heard of any holy son candidate. Seeing Murong's strange smile, Ma Tianqing was instantly enraged. He was one of the few geniuses of the younger generation in Zushenzong. He had cultivated to the transformation stage at a young age. Just like that, there were not many people in the entire cultivation world who could compare to him. In the cultivation world, he was only second to the head disciple, holy son, and holy daughter. Other than those three super powerhouses, Ma Tianqing's strength was also at the forefront of the remaining geniuses. However, even though his aptitude was not bad and his cultivation was very strong, there was still a huge gap between him and the head disciple, Ma Tianyun, and their holy son. Therefore, he could only be ranked 60th on the Dragon Phoenix list. He was far behind Ma Tianyun, who was ranked 8th, and Zushenzong's holy son. In fact, the holy son candidate was a nice name. Other than him, Zushenzong had a few other holy son candidates. Ma Tianqing had always been living in the shadow of his elder brother, Ma Tianyun. Ma Tianyun was the undisputed #1 in Zushenzong's younger generation. Although his aptitude was not bad, it was far from Ma Tianyun's. Therefore, his brilliance was always overshadowed by Ma Tianyun. Many people even thought that he was able to become a holy son candidate because of his elder brother. Therefore, when he saw Murong's strange smile, he thought that Murong was mocking him. Murong, die. As long as I kill you, I'll be qualified to become a holy son. Ma Tianqing laughed sinisterly. He took a step in the air, shattered the void, and charged towards Murong. During this process, he reached out his hand and grabbed at the air. He quickly grabbed at Murong's head, wanting to kill Murong in one fell swoop. If you kill me, you'll be qualified to become a holy son? Murong's smile froze. His eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold, killing intent flashed in them. However, he quickly laughed again. If you want to become a holy son, you just have to go back and kill your holy son. That way, you can become a holy son directly. However, from what I see, with your strength, it's impossible for you to kill your holy son. Of course, it's even more impossible for you to kill me. After a pause, Murong's eyes flashed with killing intent as he looked at Ma Tianqing, who was charging towards him. Brat, you're tired of living. How dare you try to kill me? You're courting death. Do you know that? You're courting death. Damn it. You're about to die, and you're still blabbering nonsense. Die. Ma Tianqing roared angrily and slammed his hand down. Suddenly, endless divine light exploded, tearing the sky and splitting the earth. It was about to kill Murong. Murong was stunned. Then, his face was filled with killing intent. What Ma Tianqing said just now seemed to be what he often said in the past. However, it was now being said by his opponent. How would he endure this? Since that's the case, I'll grant you your wish. Murong snorted coldly and activated his mysterious art. Suddenly, layers of black energy rose from his body. Endless black energy lingered on the surface of Murong's body, making him look like a demon god. Boom! With a punch, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The void was directly shattered. After an earth-shattering explosion, Murong's energy and Ma Tianqing's hand both shattered. At the same time, the two of them were sent flying by the terrifying impact. Murong, you're really not bad. However, you're definitely going to die today. Ma Tianqing was sent flying a few miles. His blood and chi were in turmoil from the impact. However, he grinned maliciously and extended a hand that was as big as a mountain. It covered the entire sky and enveloped Murong-yu, slamming down fiercely. "You're not a match for me." Murong-yu's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Ma Tianqing was indeed worthy of being Zuxianzong's saint candidate. Although he had just reached the middle transformation stage, he seemed to be stronger than the Fang clan leader. However, he was still not a match for Murong-yu. After the battle with the Fang clan leader, Murong-yu's cultivation level did not break through. However, after absorbing the experience of that battle, his strength had increased again. He was much stronger than before. If he were to fight with the Fang clan leader now, he would not need so much time to kill him. The blood and qi in his body were in turmoil. The black energy lingered on the surface of Murong-yu's body. An extremely tyrannical aura was emitted from his body and swept in all directions. Thousand Army Elephant pulling fist. With a loud shout, Murong-yu displayed the Dragon Elephant Prajna technique. His entire body was like a demon god that soared into the sky. He tore apart the sky and the earth as he fought with Ma Tianqing. Ma Tianqing was not weak either. The blood and qi in his body boiled. Green energy soared into the sky and broke through the firmament. The heavens trembled continuously, and a violent power shattered the void continuously. Boom, boom, boom. Although Murong-yu did not think highly of Ma Tianqing, he did not underestimate his opponent. He raised his strength to the maximum and fought with Ma Tianqing. Ma Tianqing was in a frenzy. He had already raised his strength to the maximum. There were more than 80 horned dragon shadows hovering in the void above his head. The condensed green horned dragons were like mountain ranges. They hovered and roared. The dragon's head, dragon's body, dragon's tail, and even dragon's claws were bursting with terrifying energy. Wherever they passed, the void would be shattered. Under his control, the horned dragon shadows suppressed Murong-yu. He wanted to tear Murong-yu apart. However, Murong-yu was extremely powerful. Although he only had 75 dragon powers, which is about 10 less than Ma Tianqing's dragon powers. However, his horned dragon shadows were even more condensed and terrifying. A black horned dragon shadow that was the size of a small mountain roared and whipped out its dragon tail. Bang! The void was shattered by the dragon tail. The dragon tail that contained terrifying energy broke Ma Tianqing's green horned dragon shadow in half. Ma Tianqing groaned. As the horned dragon shadow was broken, he was shaken. "If I kill you, I'll be qualified to become the saint. As long as I kill you, I can prove that I, Ma Tianqing, am powerful too. I'm not living under my brother's protection." Ma Tianqing roared, and his attacks became more intense. "Ha! Ma Tianqing, you want to kill me? Go home and cultivate for a few hundred more years." Murong-yu laughed out loud. One after another, he unleashed his combat skills. It was as if the sky was about to shatter, and even the stars were trembling. Chapter 229. Ma Tianqing was furious. He roared again and raised his strength to the extreme. He only wanted to kill Murong-yu. On the other hand, Murong-yu calmly attacked. He unleashed one battle skill after another. It was earth-shattering and terrifying. Although Ma Tianqing's strength was soaring, he could not do anything to Murong-yu. Murong-yu used the army formula. His speed was too fast. He was so fast that Ma Tianqing's attacks could not hit him at all. On the other hand, Murong-yu relied on the unparalleled speed of the soldier symbol art to continuously bombard Ma Tianqing with terrifying power. Ma Tianqing kept coughing up blood, and his body cracked open, revealing ghastly wounds. Ma Tianqing kept roaring. He was shocked and angry. He finally realized that although he was powerful and ranked 60th on the Dragon Phoenix list, he was 20 places higher than Murong-yu. However, Murong-yu was too powerful. After a round of battle, he was actually at a disadvantage. If this continued, he would not be able to kill Murong-yu. On the contrary, he might be killed by Murong-yu. Soul Summoning Banner. Summon and seize souls. Kill him. Ma Tianqing forced Murong-yu back with a punch. Then, he roared and took out a magic treasure that was emitting a black light. It was a palm-sized soul-summoning banner. It expanded with the wind and instantly grew to the size of a few miles. It covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping the entire world. Black demonic chi was emitted from the soul-summoning banner. It covered the sky and the sun. Demonic flames surged. It was very terrifying. In the demonic flames, ferocious demons even bared their fangs and brandished their claws at Murong-yu. At the same time, an inexplicable power surged. It swept past the power on the surface of Murong-yu's body and directly drilled into his body. At this moment, Murong-yu's soul trembled. It was as if a large hand had reached into his soul space and was trying to pull his soul out. Murong-yu's soul began to tremble violently. The invisible hand seemed to have grasped his soul tightly and was constantly pulling it out. Murong-yu even felt that a part of his soul had been pulled out of his spiritual space by that hand. The soul and the soul space were not real existences. They were a kind of nothingness, invisible, but real existences. It was a very mysterious existence. As long as there was life, there would be a soul. Without a soul, it was not a life. Without a soul, even if you were a peerless expert, you would still be a dead man. Although the soul was formless and intangible, it was the most important part of life. The soul-summoning banner, as its name implied, was actually used to summon Murong-yu's soul. Murong-yu didn't have the slightest doubt that if his soul was pulled out of his soul space by that invisible hand, then what awaited him would be death. The moment his soul left his soul space, he would die instantly. How can there be such a magic weapon? Murong-yu was inexplicably horrified. He had never heard of such a magic weapon. It was really too evil. Think about it. Even if you were an absolute expert, as long as I used the soul-summoning banner, I would be able to summon your soul. Then, without needing to do anything, you would already be dead. Too powerful, too terrifying, too abnormal. Murong-yu was aghast. A small part of his soul had already been pulled out of his soul space. Murong-yu, die for me. Ma Tianqing sneered and strode over. A terrifying power was emitted from his body, crushing the earth. In his opinion, Murong-yu would definitely die. This was because not long ago, he had used the soul-summoning banner to kill an old monster in the late stage of the transformation realm. In front of the soul-summoning banner, that old man in the transformation stage didn't even have time to react. His soul had already been pulled out of his soul space, and he died instantly. One should know that the expert he killed was an old monster in the late stage of transformation. His strength was many times stronger than his. What more Murong-yu? The soul-summoning banner was an immortal artifact that he had accidentally obtained. Its power was too great, and it was his biggest trump card. If it wasn't for the long battle today, he would never use the soul-summoning banner. Of course, after using the soul-summoning banner, he would definitely kill Murong-yu. This was because he couldn't let the fact that he had the soul-summoning banner leak out. At that time, countless experts, including first-step immortals and half-step immortals, would attack him. Want to kill me? It's not that easy. Feeling his soul being pulled faster and faster by the invisible hand, Murong-yu was shocked and angry at the same time. He was about to be completely pulled out of his soul space. This was only a moment's effort. If he was still unable to shatter that hand, then it would only take a few moments for him to be killed. His true core force was completely useless against the soul-summoning banner's power. With a bang, Murong-yu's body emitted a boundless purple light that soared into the sky, enveloping him within. This was Murong-yu activating the purple ribbon immortal robe. However, although the purple ribbon immortal robe could block most of the power, the soul-summoning banner's power was too terrifying. However, the power of the soul-summoning banner was extremely terrifying. It was invisible and formless, and there was no way to block it. The purple ribbon immortal robe was also useless. Rumble. The moment the purple ribbon immortal robe was activated, countless tribulation clouds gathered above Murong-yu and Ma Tianqing. Then, a sky full of tribulation lightning struck down, trying to destroy the invisible hand and the soul-summoning banner. Struggle as much as you want. All your tricks are useless. Ma Tianqing smiled sinisterly and slowly walked toward Murong-Yu. However, during this process, he still activated the soul summoning banner to form a sky screen above his head, blocking the endless tribulation lightning. The sky full of tribulation lightning struck down, causing the soul summoning banner to shake violently. Demonic chi exploded from the soul summoning banner, constantly erasing the tribulation lightning. Although the tribulation lightning was terrifying, it couldn't destroy the soul summoning banner in a short period of time. Even if the tribulation lightning could really destroy the soul summoning banner, Murong-Yu couldn't wait until that moment. He was afraid that before the tribulation lightning could destroy the soul summoning banner, his soul would be pulled out of his soul space and he would die. Even the tribulation lightning, which was extremely fierce and had the most terrifying offensive power, was unable to shatter that invisible hand. Murong-Yu couldn't help but roar in anger. He didn't want to be killed here in such a sullen manner. He didn't want to die without knowing why. Since the tribulation lightning can't destroy the soul summoning banner, then I'll use the yin-yang fire. Yin-yang cauldron, burn the world. Murong-Yu roared in his heart and immediately took out the yin-yang cauldron. The moment the yin-yang cauldron appeared, it expanded with the wind and became 10 feet tall, circling above Murong-Yu's head. It spun continuously, and the yin-yang fire fell down, enveloping Murong-Yu. Chi-chi, wherever the yin-yang fire passed. Even the void was burned and terrifying cracks appeared. The void of the cultivation world couldn't withstand the burning of the yin-yang fire. Moreover, Murong-Yu was using the yin-yang fire with all his might, which could burn the world. Puff! The moment Murong-Yu took out the yin-yang cauldron, Ma Tianqing violently spat out a mouthful of blood. He actually destroyed the soul summoning banner's attack. Impossible! This is impossible. Ma Tianqing looked at Murong-Yu in shock and anger as he roared. Just a moment ago, the invisible hand that was trying to pull Murong-Yu's soul away had been burned away by the yin-yang flames. Ma Tianqing's mind was shaken, and he violently spat out blood. In contrast to Ma Tianqing's rage, Murong-Yu was actually feeling relieved. If he didn't take out the yin-yang cauldron in time, and if the yin-yang fire didn't destroy the soul summoning banner, he would have died. Because just a moment ago, his soul was already half pulled out by the invisible hand. If Murong-Yu was a few moments slower, his soul would have been completely pulled out of the soul space, and he would have died. Luckily, the yin-yang fire can restrain the soul summoning banner. Otherwise, I would have died today. Murong-Yu heaved a sigh of relief, and then looked at Ma Tianqing with a murderous look. If he didn't have the yin-yang cauldron, he would have been killed by this guy. Even if he had the Hichu Luo Shu, he might not be able to escape. This was why Murong-Yu didn't enter the Hichu Luo Shu immediately. I didn't expect you to have such a strange and terrifying magic treasure. However, from today onwards, the soul summoning banner will be changed to Murong-Yu. Ma Tianqing, you could die now. Murong-Yu's face revealed a sinister and murderous smile. Ma Tianqing's face was gloomy, frightened, and furious. Soul summoning banner. Summon souls and seize souls. Kill, kill, kill. Ma Tianqing didn't believe it. He poured almost all of his energy into the soul summoning banner and tried his best to activate it. Ma Tianqing's strength wasn't weak to begin with. The soul summoning banner that he tried his best to activate quickly grew in size. In an instant, it became thousands of miles wide, covering the sky and the sun, and enveloping the void. Puff, puff, puff. Demonic flames surged, and murderous intent burst out. Just as Ma Tianqing was activating the soul-summoning banner with all his strength, the souls of countless cultivators and animals within the range of the soul-summoning banner were directly captured by the soul-summoning banner and died. These people didn't even know how they died. They didn't even have time to react. Even the plants within a radius of 10,000 miles were quickly withering. Plants were also living beings and naturally had souls. Under the soul-summoning banner, all the living beings and souls were taken away. It was extremely terrifying. Countless souls were captured and then turned into rays of black light that surged towards the soul-summoning banner. They were directly devoured by the soul-summoning banner. After devouring these souls, the power of the soul-summoning banner became even more terrifying and even continued to expand. Ma Tianqing, you deserve to die. Murong Yu was furious when he saw that countless living beings had their souls extracted and died in such a short period of time. In the small town just now, as well as the surrounding thousands of miles, there were millions or even tens of millions of people killed by the soul-summoning banner this time. Among these people, there might be many evil people who deserved to die. However, there was also a considerable number of people who weren't bad people, but they were all killed by Ma Tianqing. Chapter 230. As the soul-summoning banner swayed, the souls of all living beings within a radius of 10,000 miles were extracted, crushed, and devoured by the soul-summoning banner. It was too cruel, too evil, and too perverted. Although this was the cultivation world, a radius of 10,000 miles wasn't small. In addition to a few small cities and some small sects nearby, there were at least a few million people. If all the animals and plants were included, there would be more than 100 million lives that were killed by Ma Tianqing's soul-summoning banner. More than 100 million lives. Corpses would be strewn across 10,000 miles, and there would be no more living beings within 10,000 miles. Since his debut, Murong Yu had killed countless people. However, every single one of them deserved to die, and every single one of them was his enemy. He had never killed innocent people. However, Ma Tianqing was different. Swaying the soul-summoning banner, he had killed more than 100 million lives. This made Murong Yu extremely angry. He had killed too many innocent people. Of course, if it wasn't for the Yin Yang Cauldron, Murong Yu's soul would have been extracted and he would have died a violent death. Seeing Murong Yu standing in front of him safe and sound, the soul-summoning banner had no effect on him. Ma Tianqing couldn't help but be shocked and angry. Murong Yu, let's see how you're going to block this. Ma Tianqing roared and swayed the soul-summoning banner with all his might. As it had devoured many souls, the power of the soul-summoning banner was dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than before. With Ma Tianqing's full power, the soul-summoning banner expanded rapidly. In fact, the range of the soul-summoning banner had exceeded 10,000 miles and shrouded far away. Within the range of the soul-summoning banner, the souls of all living beings were extracted from their bodies, torn apart, and devoured. The power of the soul-summoning banner was increasing rapidly. At the same time, an inexplicable force covered the sky and covered the earth, rushing towards Murong Yu like a torrent. The ghostly wails and wolf howls were eerie and terrifying. Even with the protection of a yin-yang fire, Murong Yu could still feel his soul trembling constantly, as though it could leave his body at any time. Murong Yu was enraged as he looked at Ma Tianqing with murderous intent in his eyes. Ma Tianqing, you killed the innocent. Today, I will kill you. Murong Yu was enraged. The yin-yang cauldron above his head dropped down and enveloped him in yin-yang fire, isolating him from the attack of the soul-summoning banner. On the other hand, Murong Yu strode towards Ma Tianqing. Ma Tianqing laughed loudly and pushed his strength to the limit. He used all of his strength to activate the soul-summoning banner and waved it at Murong Yu. He wanted to pull out Murong Yu's soul and tear it apart. Murong Yu's soul began to tremble violently. The closer he got to Ma Tianqing, the stronger the trembling of his soul. He was almost unable to suppress it and was about to leave his body. Die! Murong Yu gave a loud shout as he quickly thrust out his spear. Rumble! A terrifying spear light shot out from his body, tearing the sky and splitting the earth. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it tore towards Ma Tianqing, wanting to tear him into pieces. Ma Tianqing sneered as he waved the soul-summoning banner with both hands and unleashed a terrifying power. Devil flames surged and devil chi soared into the sky, directly shattering Murong Yu's attack. After devouring hundreds of millions of souls, the power of the soul-summoning banner was terrifying. As a result, Ma Tianqing's strength had increased by several times. He could even easily shatter Murong-Yu's power. Murong-Yu was shocked. The soul-summoning banner could devour souls and continue to grow stronger. Ma Tianqing's strength was also getting stronger. The power of the soul-summoning banner was very strange. Even a transformation stage cultivator could not defend against it. If Ma Tianqing went crazy and massacred countless cultivators to increase the power of the soul-summoning banner, then the entire cultivation world would be covered in corpses and countless living beings would be slaughtered. I must obtain the soul-summoning banner. I must kill Ma Tianqing. Murong-Yu thought in his heart. The soul-summoning banner was very powerful and could directly attack souls. It was a very abnormal magic treasure. When Murong-Yu discovered the soul-summoning banner, he could not help but have the intention to kill and seize the treasure. Later, when Ma Tianqing killed the innocent, Murong-Yu was even more determined to kill Ma Tianqing. However, now that Ma Tianqing's strength was getting stronger, it was getting harder for Murong-Yu to kill him. If the soul-summoning banner continued to devour souls and continue to grow stronger, not only would Murong-Yu be unable to kill Ma Tianqing, he might even be killed by Ma Tianqing. With the suppression of the yin-yang fire, Murong-Yu was almost unable to suppress the soul. If this continued, he would really be unable to suppress the soul. The Gung clan would not be able to kill Ma Tianqing. Ma Tianqing must die. Murong-Yu was enraged. Terrifying energy tore through the air, wanting to beat Ma Tianqing to death. However, Ma Tianqing continued to wave the spirit-summoning banner and easily neutralized his attacks. On the contrary, Ma Tianqing was now approaching Murong-Yu with a sinister smile. He wanted to kill Murong-Yu. Murong-Yu's face was extremely gloomy. His entire body was filled with killing intent. Cosmos Bow, sky-shaking arrow, kill him. Murong-Yu shouted. He took out the Cosmos Bow and shot an arrow, wanting to kill Ma Tianqing. Murong-Yu, you are definitely not my match. Today, you will definitely die. Ma Tianqing laughed loudly. He waved the soul-summoning banner and sent the sky-shaking arrow flying. However, the sky-shaking arrow was still the sky-shaking arrow, although it was limited by Murong-Yu's strength and could not unleash more power. However, it was not so easy to break. Even if it was sent flying, the sky-shaking arrow would shoot back again. It would not stop until it killed the target. Ma Tianqing roared again and again. He waved the huge soul-summoning banner that covered the sky and blocked the endless tribulation lightning. He burst out with terrifying energy and actually took the sky-shaking arrow head-on. At the same time, Murong-Yu realized that Ma Tianqing's energy had turned black, the same as the soul-summoning banner's energy. An incomparably ferocious and savage aura was emitted from his body. His eyes were red and revealed traces of ferocity. At this moment, Ma Tianqing was like a demon. He only knew how to kill. Oh no, this guy has been assimilated by the soul-summoning banner and has become a demon. Murong-Yu was shocked. The soul-summoning banner had actually assimilated Ma Tianqing. It was too terrifying. Not only could the soul-summoning banner kill and devour souls, it could also assimilate Ma Tianqing. Once Ma Tianqing was completely assimilated, he would become a killing machine. The soul-summoning banner would constantly devour souls and become stronger. Ma Tianqing must die. Murong-Yu was shocked and furious. Seeing that even the sky-shaking arrow could not kill him for the time being, Murong-Yu became ruthless. Hichu Luoshu, cover the sky and devour thousands of worlds. Suppress. With a roar, Murong-Yu summoned the Hichu Luoshu. The Hichu Luoshu expanded with the wind and shrouded the entire world. It even enveloped the soul-summoning banner. In an instant, the land within a radius of millions or even tens of millions of miles suddenly turned from day to night. An incomparably vast and righteous energy was emitted. It shook the heavens and the earth, suppressing the thousands of worlds and intimidating billions of living beings. Why did the sky turn dark? Just as the Hichu Luoshu shrouded the sky, countless cultivators were stunned. Countless living beings panicked. thinking that the sky was about to collapse and the world was about to end. This was the first time Murong-yu summoned the Hichu Luoshu to fight against an enemy. The overwhelming Hichu Luoshu, which was countless times larger than the soul-summoning banner, enveloped him directly. At the same time, an incomparably terrifying and righteous energy was emitted and suppressed the soul-summoning banner. Creak, creak. Under the incomparably terrifying suppression of the He-Tu and Luo-Shu, even though the soul-summoning banner was filled with monstrous demonic chi, it was constantly being suppressed to the point of shrinking. Even the soul-summoning banner was rapidly shrinking. Soon, it shrunk from tens of thousands of miles to tens of thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, and finally turned back into a huge banner that fluttered above Ma Tianqing's head. Ma Tianqing roared in shock and anger. Murong-yu, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. Can't kill you? What a joke. Today, I'll refine you alive. Murong-yu was also enraged. With a thought, he immediately recalled Ma Tianqing and the soul-summoning banner. The moment he recalled Ma Tianqing, the Hichu Luoshu also shrunk rapidly. Finally, it turned into a ray of light and entered Murong-yu's body. With a flicker, Murong-yu also disappeared from where he stood. Bang! Not long after Murong-yu entered the Hichu Luoshu, a huge stone tablet appeared out of thin air and was inserted into the ground. Whoosh! 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 Not long after, figures flew over from afar and arrived at the place where Murong-yu and Ma Tianqing fought. However, they had already lost sight of Murong-yu and Ma Tianqing. Only a huge stone tablet was left at the scene. Ma Tianqing refined the soul-summoning banner here and killed hundreds of millions of living beings. Today I, Murong-yu, killed him to benefit all living beings. There are only a few words on the huge stone tablet. However, there was a constantly changing image on the stone tablet. It was the image of the battle between Murong-yu and Ma Tianqing. Of course, the scene where Murong-yu summoned the Hichu Luoshu to take Ma Tianqing away was not recorded on the stone tablet. Soul-summoning banner. It's actually the soul-summoning banner. This Ma Tianqing is really crazy. Countless cultivators couldn't help but be furious after seeing the image. It seems that the great demon Murong-yu has done a rare good deed, someone said. They didn't doubt Murong-yu's words and the authenticity of the image at all, because those images were directly engraved by someone with great magical power. It was impossible to create something out of nothing. The image of Ma Tianqing holding the soul-summoning banner and killing in all directions was even more lifelike. No one doubted it. The soul-summoning banner. However, it might not be a good thing for the soul-summoning banner to fall into Murong-yu's hands. Some cultivators who knew about the soul-summoning banner couldn't help but sigh. The fact that Murong-yu could kill Ma Tianqing, who was using the soul-summoning banner, proved that his strength was even more terrifying than Ma Tianqing's. Once Murong-yu used the soul-summoning banner, he would be hundreds of times more terrifying than Ma Tianqing. Moreover, with Murong-yu's cultivation speed, once he turned into a demon, no one in the cultivation world would be a match for him. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.